What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the PFF NFL show. Trevor Sikkema, Dalton Wasserman here with you guys to recap everything that we saw in Week 8 in the NFL. Of course, give you the top 5 graded players that we had for every single team. We'll give you the stat that told the story, some most impressive, some most disappointing, and also throw in a little bit of explain the grade here this week, which I'm excited to get to. Dalton, we have the highest graded run blocking play of the entire season, which we're going to get to. And of course, a lot of people want to talk about Justin Herbert's passing grade from last Thursday night, and I think it's going to be a great example to really just peel back the curtain on exactly how we go about things here at PFF, how we get to the grades that we do. So I'm excited about all that stuff. But buddy, you got to see, as we are in lovely Cincinnati, Ohio here, you got to see your New York Jets get the first dub of the season. How do you feel, my friend?
I mean, don't say it too loud around here, honestly. You know, there's Bengals fans in the building and all around us here.
True.
We're surrounded. And of course, it was the only one-score game of the day.
Did you wear anything Jets-related?
No, I went completely neutral. Basically like I am right now, just completely neutral, expecting to lose by about 20 and just going because I had the tickets and I live right around the corner, so that feels good. But no, I mean, honestly, more than anything, just kind of shocking with how the game went down. We'll get into it all and all the details in a bit, but after such a big win for the Bengals last Thursday, this really sets them back a lot, as I'm sure two of the guys behind the glass there are just so happy for us to break down.
I mean, there's a lot of things that happened last week. I know that, or yesterday, I should say, I know that the games weren't super competitive, but in terms of, like, place in the standings, NFL draft order, like, there's a lot of things to get to, and I think that the reason why a lot of the games maybe weren't as competitive as we wish they were, injuries played a big part of this, especially at the quarterback position for a lot of these teams. But to me, we did get a good look at some of these guys that are either going to be contributing players or players that just mean a lot, either in the short or long term, for where these teams are going to end up when it comes to these playoff spots. So I'm excited to dig into all that good stuff. Shout out to everybody who's in the chat. I see the people in the chat already here for this show. Excited to go back and forth here as we're talking about all these games with you guys. Whether you are in the chat or even if you're watching this one afterwards, to be honest with you, if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, we're going to throw a ton of numbers out at you. And if you want to see all of those for yourself, which I would encourage you to do, because there's data points that we talk about here on this show that we say, hey, this is what we think was the stat that told the story, or these are the grades that we wanted to focus on, but you can see all this stuff for yourself and maybe come to different conclusions with the information that you have. Best way to do that, PFF Plus subscription. If you don't have one, you can get 25% off right now by using that promo code PFF NFL Show 25. So PFF NFL Show 25 will get you 25% off that PFF sub. And with that, let's dig into it. Let's talk about Sunday Night Football first. Aaron Rodgers facing off against the Green Bay Packers, his old team, trying to become, what was the stat, just the 5th quarterback ever to have a win against all 32 NFL teams?
I know Brady's done it. Brady, Manning, Favre, I think. I don't know who the last one would be if there's 5.
Maybe it was like the 5th player ever. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it would have been a short list, very short list of players who have gotten a win, especially at the quarterback position, over their former team and therefore every single team in the NFL. That didn't end up happening. Green Bay Packers end up going into Pittsburgh, taking down the Steelers in this one by a score of 35-25. Got a lot to break down for this one, but let's look at the top 5 graded players that we had for the Green Bay Packers as the winners of this game. Tucker Kraft on National Tight Ends Day represented the position very well with an elite 93.7 overall grade. Right guard Jordan Morgan with an 83.5. Edge rusher Rashawn Gary with an 83.2. Kingsley Enagbare, their other edge rusher, defensive lineman, he plays all over the place with an 80.9, and then offensive tackle Zach Tom with an 80.9. Quarterback Jordan Love, really good in this game, 81.5 overall grade. On Pittsburgh's side of things, their linebacker Peyton Wilson was excellent and all over the field in this game, a 92.7 overall grade. Defensive tackle Cam Hayward, as he often is, in this top 5, and here at number 2 on the list with an 87.4. Offensive tackle Troy Fautanu with an 80.0. Edge rusher Nick Herbig at 78.0. And then rounding things out at number 5, wide receiver Roman Wilson is 77.7. Aaron Rodgers, a 75.9. So a good quarterback day, good scores from both of these quarterbacks here. Dalton, what was your stat that told the story from Sunday Night Football?
I just think at this point, this is a very clear blueprint for attacking the Steelers' pass defense. Just get rid of the football and let your athletes on the outside do the work. The Green Bay Packers had 246 yards after the catch in this game, second most of any team in any game this season. The most was the Green Bay Packers in their overtime tie against the Dallas Cowboys. So they needed 10 extra minutes to get there.
Right.
It's the most in a regulation game this season. Also 107 receiving yards after contact. That is the second most in any game this season, behind the 49ers in their Thursday night win over the Rams. That also went to overtime. So both of those numbers the highest in any regulation game this season. And the plan was clear. After a while, let Jordan Love just get rid of the football. The lowest, actually the second lowest average depth of target for him this season, just under 6 yards. The fastest average time to throw. And this Steeler defense, the only thing that really scares you right now, despite all of the big names at all three levels, is their pass rush. If you stand back there too long, TJ Watt, Nick Herbig, Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward, they're going to get to you. But if you get rid of the football and make them play in space, it's a serious problem. And it seems like the Steelers' only response, because to me it seems like I watch their defense sometimes, and they're just sitting back waiting in the back seven. They're sitting back and waiting for an offense to come to them. And then their idea of getting more aggressive is basically just running a zero blitz, which only creates more space if the quarterback is getting rid of the football quickly. Let's put it like this. In the Steelers' 4 wins this season, Trevor, the opponent's average time to throw is 2.76 seconds. Those are 4 games the Steelers have won.
Okay.
In the 3 games they've lost, that goes all the way down to 2.43. When quarterbacks just get rid of the football and get it on the outside and disallow that defensive line from dominating the game with their pass rush in those situations, especially you avoid those third and long situations as well, then the Steelers don't have a whole lot of other answers. The linebackers, Peyton Wilson's playing great, Patrick Queen not so much. The secondary, despite all the big names and the additions of Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay, not playing well in space. This is a real problem. There's a formula. It's kind of like it was the second half of last year, and their run defense still isn't as good as it was even last year. It seems like it's getting worse as time goes on, but the big thing to me is quarterbacks against the Steelers, get the football out of your hands, and right now good things are happening.
And it feels like even when they're playing those closer coverages, right? Like if you say to yourself, hey, our defensive line is so good that whether they have the time to get to the quarterback or not, if we play close press coverage, then at least you're going to be forcing a close throw or a contested throw, you would hope. Even when they play more press coverage looks, it seems like they're struggling. And if the ball's coming out within 2.5 seconds, like you mentioned, they just really struggle in that secondary. And so Deshaun Elliott getting hurt last night. I didn't see the full extent of his injury, but obviously it didn't look good. If he's out, he's one of their defenders who I think is a little bit more reliable than the other. So if he's out, I think this team's just really going to continue to struggle in the secondary. And I think that you have the veteran guys in Slay and Ramsey who can play well, but around them, I just don't think they have the horses to be able to shut you down if those quarterbacks are getting the ball out of their hands pretty quickly. For me, the stat that told the story is Steelers on third down. And to be honest, and I know Packers fans are like, well, hold on, let's, we want to hear more about the Packers and how they played well, and we'll get to that in a second. But to me, the Steelers going 1 for 10 on third down, you're just not going to win football games like that. And they scored 25 points. And so honestly, I think what you're talking about of the yards after catch that were allowed and the struggles in the secondary from the Steelers and all that, that is probably the bigger stat that told the story because, like I said, they go 1 for 10 on third down and they still score 25 points. You score 25 points, you got a feeling you can win an NFL game. You really can. So to be that poor on third down and still score that many points, you feel like you would have been in pretty good position to come away with the victory here. They ultimately don't, though, and I know people were like, oh my God, it's the Chris Boswell fantasy savior type of a game because he gets 4 field goals in this game, but it's got to be more than that. And when I saw the one for 10 on third down, I was like, man, did they really struggle in the red zone? Because I know they kicked a lot of field goals. They didn't, though. Like, they were only in the red zone, I believe it was once, and they converted on the touchdown that they were down there. What the problem was is they were starting their drives in their own territory, and then they were getting into Green Bay territory, but then nothing else really after that. And that's just really where the struggles were for this team. So, to be honest, I thought this was a really nice game. Like, it was a really good game from both sides. I think the Packers clearly did more things better than the Steelers did, but I don't think the Steelers played terrible. I thought certainly in the first half, Aaron Rodgers and that offense was playing really well, as obviously they got the lead there, but ultimately it was just, I think the Packers were the better team, and clearly they finished in the second half. So to me, it was just really the Steelers not being able to convert on too many of those third downs, keep those drives going, give themselves the ability to score touchdowns instead of those 4 field goals. that's how you get to a 10-point deficit and losing this game.
Yeah, I think the lesson for the Steelers their last 2 games is that they've lost both of these games, and neither one of them is Aaron Rodgers' fault at all. They have issues on defense. They've had some issues on defense since the beginning of the year. You go back to the Jet game that they pulled out that was very close, and Justin Fields had maybe the best game of his career in that game. This game, Joe Flacco last week tore him up, and they even got a late lead, and he still found a way to win it for the Bengals last Thursday. So they have some issues to figure out on defense, and it feels like a lot of the same issues they had late last year when they started to struggle on defense, especially in the secondary. Right now, the blueprint is get rid of the football. Jordan Love did that at a very nice rate, and the Packers, all of the receiving weapons that the Packers have, we're going to talk about a couple of them here. Yeah. They were really, really good last night, and that's kind of the hardest part, I think, right now of defending this Packers team, on top of Josh Jacobs being able to tee off on any given week. They just have so many different options.
Yeah, it felt like, and they're not even as fully healthy as they could be, but it felt like this game, they had everything that they wanted at their disposal on the offensive side of the ball. Like, Christian Watson was back, and to be honest, him coming back, first game back from that ACL tear in the regular season finale last year, he plays in this game, 4 catches, 4 targets, 85 receiving yards, looked like that vertical stretching wide receiver that they wanted him to be, and so him now involved in this offense only just helps it out so much more. But Tucker Kraft in this game, what he was, Romeo Doubs, Malik Heath, Emmanuel Wilson giving them a couple of explosive plays in the run game when Josh Jacobs wasn't having a super explosive night himself. Savion Williams gets into the end zone, right? It just felt as though this was the manifestation of all of the, in theory, passing weapons that the Green Bay Packers have been assembling over the last couple of years, and specifically this past draft, when you get guys like Savion Williams and Matthew Golden to sort of take you over the top, knowing that Christian Watson was going to be healthy at some point, that Tucker Kraft was going to take some sort of a next step forward. I mean, he's an all-pro tight end now, so I don't know if they were, if they could have confidently said, oh yeah, he's going to be exactly this version of Tucker Kraft, but I knew that they believed in him and that they thought he could have been close to what he has been so far. But it just feels as though Packers are clicking, and they were firing all cylinders last night with a lot of diverse offensive weapons. And to me, Jordan Love played an excellent game, and I don't even want to call him like a point guard, because I think that for most people would sound insulting for what he was. I thought he had a fantastic game last night. I thought he played really well under pressure specifically, and we talked about last Wednesday how that was my big key for Jordan Love. Is there have been moments, not all of them, but there have been moments throughout this season where he has really struggled under pressure, and he played very well under pressure last night. I think the passing grade was just below 70, which is a really good mark when you talk about when a guy is under pressure. He had a big-time throw under pressure. I don't believe he had any turnover-worthy plays under pressure in this game, and so he just felt like he was operating that offense very, very well. And Matt LaFleur, even after the game, said, I didn't want to take the ball out of his hands. Like, how well he was playing, how confidently he was playing, I just wanted to keep putting the ball in his hands for him to keep throwing it. And so as long as that's going to be the case, you know that Green Bay is going to have a chance to put up 30 every single week. Yeah,
I think that you look at kind of this trend of some of the best teams in football right now, and they have that. You mentioned the point guard thing, and Jordan Love is still very aggressive, but the fact that he can distribute it to so many different avenues in this offense, right? The Chiefs have a similar vibe now with everybody healthy. The Colts, we've talked about just a number of different options. New England has that going a little bit now. You can't just key in on one or two guys, like, you know, when you play against teams like the Cowboys or the Bengals, right? When you have, okay, 2 superstars and then not a whole lot else behind it. This is a team now that they're fully healthy, and if Watson's going to play like this as another vertical threat, they're as dangerous as any offense in football, because what's the tell? What's the one guy that you have to stop? It doesn't really work like that. It's everybody, including the run game and Josh Jacobs on the ground. So, I mean, they really now, if Jordan Love is going to play like that, more like the point guard and the ball distributor who's more occasionally aggressive when it's smart to be, they're going to be really hard to stop every single week.
Most impressive and most disappointing for you.
I mean, it's National Tight End Day, and Tucker Kraft took full advantage of it, right? Wearing that number 85 out there, you're watching him, you're like, man, that kind of looks like George Kittle, right? But 143 yards, 128 of them after the catch, 4 missed tackles forced. I mean, he's an absolute weapon. He's really turning into one of the best tight ends in football.
Did you see him headbutt his teammate without a helmet on the sideline?
Dude, I think I missed that part.
It
sounds about right considering how he's playing.
I think it was after he scored the touchdown, I believe, and they came back from commercial, and they found him on the sideline, and he doesn't have his helmet on, and another player does, and I think the boss man, Chris Collinsworth, was talking about, he plays like a receiver. Like he gives you the return on investment in the receiving game as if he were a wide receiver. But then Chris says, you want to just see how you know that he's a tight end instead of a wide receiver? Watch this. And it was just a little clip, and he, sure enough, like, he headbutts his teammate who has a helmet on. It's like reminiscent of, like, you remember the Brian Cushing clips?
Oh, yeah.
Where he's just headbutting people without a helmet on. I mean, that's true football player behavior.
I think he's kind of right, though. That is the difference. You never see a wide receiver do that.
No,
ever,
of course not.
Ever.
No.
Wide receivers got to look good. Tight ends, they don't care.
Okay, most disappointing for you.
I just think, you have another game struggling for Patrick Queen, and I think, look, they're paying a lot of money for him, and Peyton Wilson's been really good next to him, but a coverage grade around 30 once again in this game. He's got one of the lowest coverage grades in the NFL among linebackers, and I just think he's got to play a lot better on both ends, in run defense and in coverage, for this team to get better. He's got to be that leader in the middle that they paid him to be.
Steelers coverage for me is just the overall. I mean, we kind of talked about it at the very top. Like, it's a unit that it has to be able to play better, especially with the pass rush that they have the ability to generate. So the coverage for me in this game was again something that I would point out. Joey Porter Jr. struggled. You mentioned Patrick Queen struggling. Juan Thornhill struggling in this game. Brandon Echols didn't play a ton, but not a great coverage grade. Deshaun Elliott, even before he went out, struggled in this one. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, like, they were okay when it came to their overall grades, but really just the coverage unit overall from this team, it's got to be better, especially when you have a pass rush that the Steelers have the ability to generate every single week. The Jets and the Bengals, let's just talk about this game next. So we didn't have an international game, so we don't have an early game to get to here. So we'll go to Jets and the Bengals. This one was in Cincinnati. New York Jets win this one by a score of 39-38. Very funny that of all of the games that people could have picked to be the most entertaining, the barn burner, the closest one, the biggest shootout, guarantee nobody would have told you this would have been the case. And my survivor pool is evidence to that with all the people that picked the Cincinnati Bengals yesterday. Top 5 graded players that we had for the New York Jets getting their first win of the season, and Aaron Glenn's first win as a head coach. Running back Isaiah Davis at the top of the list with a 79.7. Tight end Mason Taylor a 75.2. Tight end Jeremy Ruckert right behind him with a 75.0. Wide receiver Isaiah Williams with a 74.8. And then cornerback Jarvis Brownlee Jr. a 73.2. Justin Fields in this game on the heels of his owner going after him, taking the shots earlier in the week. It's unnecessary. There's no reason for this, Dalton. Comes out, plays a great game, 77.8 overall. Cincinnati side of things, their running back Chase Brown, back-to-back really nice weeks for Chase Brown here. 87.0 was the grade that he had in this one. Wide receiver Jamar Chase an 82.5. Tight end Noah Fant an 81.2. Center Ted Karras with a 76.4. And then running back Samaje Perine rounding it out at number 5 with a 75.6. Joe Flacco in this game, a 69.1. Dalton, the stat that told the story.
Look, and for people wondering where Breece Hall might be there, his overall grade just below those guys, 69.1. The rushing grade is 75. Breece Hall, and throwing the winning touchdown, of course. Breece Hall did have a really good day himself, just missed that top 5 as well. But no, I mean, the Jets just got raging hot in the last quarter and a half of this game. Their last 4 drives, taking out the kneel down at the end, they ran 29 plays. They scored 26 points. They had 9.4 yards per play. And just on those last 4 drives, amongst those 29 plays, 16 carries for 175 yards. This is, again, when the Jets have looked good this year, the rare moments they have, it's because they've been able to run the football with Breece Hall, with Justin Fields a little bit, with Isaiah Davis, who came on and had a big day, especially in the receiving game as well. And, you just look at the momentum that they got, and they made the Bengals continue to have to play a perfect game on offense because the Bengals defense just continues to let them down in big spots. I mean, even last week, they didn't win. They didn't beat Pittsburgh because of their defense. It was a couple plays, a DJ Turner interception early in the game sticks out, but they also gave the Steelers a lead within the last 2 minutes, right? And Joe Flacco had to bring him back. So whether it's Joe Burrow, Joe Flacco, Joe Montana, Joe DiMaggio, it really doesn't matter. The Bengals have the same story going here where their offense has to play perfect games for them to win. So the Jets, they caught fire in the second half. They got momentum. The 2-point conversions worked. The trick plays were working. It took everything they had. But kind of like Aaron Glenn said, it's just the grit that they've played with in a handful of these games finally paid off for them, right? We saw them come back in the Bucs game game. The
Right.
Steelers game in week
Right.
1 was tight. This was just one where they were able to finish the job here, and the offense got red hot down the stretch.
Yeah, and it was always, you looked at their record of 0-7 going in this one, and you could say, like, man, they should at least have one. I mean, there's those 2 games that they played earlier this year where you go, okay, maybe we're not even giving them both of those games. We're at least giving them one. Like, you can give them one of those games. So them being winless through 7 weeks probably didn't tell the entire story of what this Jets team was capable of. And obviously they go out and they play a pretty good football game and they get their first win of the season here in Cincinnati. I thought that Fields' passing grade under pressure in this game specifically, and then really tying that into how the Jets' offensive line played, was really good because through the first couple of weeks in the season, because what was their first 3 games? What was the Jets' first 3 games?
Pittsburgh, Buffalo, was Miami the third one?
Hold on, I'll find it in a second.
Miami may have been the third. I
So
know
it was
Buffalo
Pittsburgh,
week 2.
Buffalo, and then they played the Bucs.
Oh, the Bucs game was third.
So you look at those, you look at 2 of those 3 games, and you say, all right, Bills game, they weren't going to win. We're not going to win the Bills game. But close in that Steelers game, really shot themselves in the foot, didn't get a win there. The Bucs game, that's another one where it's like, I'm not really in the business of saying that they should have won that game, but they did have the opportunity to at the end. So at least they were there at the very end of that game and could have potentially won that football game. I think at the beginning of the season, their offensive line specifically was playing better. And then you get into the stretch of, okay, like the Dolphins game, the Cowboys game, the Broncos game, the Panthers game. Like the offensive line just was not playing as well as it had earlier in the season, although I think last week they were starting to play a little bit better. This week they definitely played a lot better. I think specifically in the run game, they were able to move things a little bit better. And then when it came to neutralizing the Bengals pass rush, which I understand, I'm a draft guy. I'm looking at teams through a draft lens. I know that the Bengals need better pass rush anyways. So it's not like they're one of the fiercest pass rush teams in the NFL, but specifically in this game, Justin Fields, 85.6 passing grade under pressure. Now, previously, the first 7 weeks, 33.6 passing grade under pressure. So that is a massive difference of just how you are handling yourself when there is pressure. And to be honest with you, there wasn't a lot of it. The Jets' offensive line only allowed 2 pressures all game themselves. Now, Fields was pressured 7 times in this game, but again, just to give you a little bit of peel back of the curtain of like how we do things here at PFF, I don't know, Dalton, you might be able to give me a little bit more information here. I don't know if there's a certain like second point, like if it's over like 2.75 seconds or if it's over 3 seconds, but essentially if you're an offensive lineman and you block your guy for whatever it is, let's just say like 3 seconds, and then the defensive lineman finally beats you, we don't count that against the offensive lineman for a pressure. You did your job. Realistically, you stayed in front of that player for whatever a reasonable time is. And if the quarterback chose to hold on to the ball longer than he probably should have, or just for an extended period of time, that still counts as a pressure from the defensive lineman. But we don't really fault the offensive lineman for that because they did their job on that play. You can't realistically expect an offensive lineman to say, well, if the quarterback's going to hold on to the ball for 5 seconds, the offensive lineman has to block for 5 seconds. Sure, in theory, that's what we would all love. But is it realistic from a grades perspective? No. So all of that to say, the Jets' offensive line, though there were 7 pressures against Justin Fields in this game, we only credited the offensive line for giving up 2 of them. So that's an excellent job by the Jets' offensive line to not only mitigate the pressure, but then even when Justin Fields was under pressure, he handled it well as well. So to me, that was the big stat that told the story, simply because in previous weeks, Fields has unfortunately taken those situations and made them catastrophic for his team. Turnover-worthy plays, not converting it, not passing the ball where he should have, and yeah, like I said, like sometimes just coughing the ball up entirely. So I thought that was the biggest stat that told the story.
Yeah, and a big part of that, it really says a lot about the Bengals. Because in previous weeks, too, you talk about the Denver Broncos game. They have an elite pass rush, right? Or the Steelers game in week 1, they have an elite pass rush. Where this game, Trey Hendrickson didn't play in the second half either due to injury. And you could feel that as the game was going on, that, there's just, without Trey, there is nobody getting home for the Bengals. And, well, we knew that would be the case anyway. And, you know, and you were talking about the draft side of it and Shamar Stewart being kind of a project as a pass rusher. But that's really just it. The Bengals Bengals don't have any other answers other than Hendrickson. That was the case last year. They had him leading the league in sacks, and yet they were still in the bottom 6 or 7 of pass rush grade because they don't have a whole unit like a team like Philadelphia or Pittsburgh or, some of these other big-time pass rush teams do. So you lose that guy, all of a sudden it's non-existent, and Justin Fields gets real comfortable. And to be honest, Trevor, even if we had charged the offensive line with all 7 of those pressures, even 7 out of 37, that's pretty darn good. You're talking about less than 20% that he said. That's what you look for, is if that number is 20% or below, or even below 25% that a quarterback is pressured in a given game, that's an outstanding game from a pass protection point. And the fact that the offensive line only got charged with 2 pressures all day, outstanding stuff, especially in a game where they were down 2 scores for most of it.
The Bengals specific, by the way, is there like a certain second mark, or is it sort of just the nuance, of course, sort of like we just watched the play and we're like, okay, this is the realistic point of where you did your job here, and now now the defensive lineman is getting by you at a point where we felt like you still did your job on this play.
There's some nuance to it. There can be some gray area, but generally we really start to loosen the reins around 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And if you get to 3.5, we're very rarely going to downgrade you.
Sure.
And then there's also the combination of sometimes, you get a quarterback who steps into a place in the pocket where he shouldn't, or just bails outside of a clean pocket, where, if he bails outside, spins outside the tackle, and there could still be a pressure, but he created that for himself. That's a moment where you would charge it to a quarterback. So I would say in general, we start to really loosen the reins on blaming offensive linemen around that 3-second mark and beyond 3.5 for sure. But there's also factors where the quarterback does play into that, depending on where he goes and if he should have stepped up or if he should have bailed. And, it can be kind of in concert with those two things.
I'm always going to lean on Dalton for a lot of the grading side of things, because you came up through the grading tree of what is this company. So I'm always going to lean on him for those specifics. Most disappointing for me, the Bengals in general, but the linebackers, I think specifically, against outside zone. So that's something that I feel like the Jets have wanted to do more of this season, is just get to the sideline, block things up really well, and give those running backs a crease or a lane, whether it's outside of where the corner is or maybe inside of where the corner is, whatever, just to have a rushing lane up the sideline to use that athleticism and that speed once you get some momentum going. It hasn't really worked to the level they have wanted it to so far this season. I think it absolutely worked against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals, 27.7 team run defense grade against outside zone specifically. So it's an area where the Jets have wanted to have more of their production, I would say, rooted in sort of those to the sideline runs, and they were able to do that this week. And I felt as though the linebackers for the Bengals, they're trying to get more athletic there, right? Barrett Carter's on the field, really a smaller linebacker, but a very athletic linebacker. Demetrius Knight, the whole reason why you draft him from South Carolina is the dude can fly. He's got a lot of speed to him. And I think the reason why, Logan Wilson hasn't played nearly as much this year and they're sort of going away from him is because he's just not quite the athlete those other guys are. So I think they've wanted to lean more into speed at the second level in the linebacker spot. It came back to bite them this week because they were, though they had the athleticism to defend things like outside zone, they weren't able to take on the offensive linemen, the pullers, the lead blockers the way that they needed to, and instead they're giving up a lot. Their average depth of tackle in this game was over 4 yards, and anytime that's the case, you're letting an offensive line in the run game kind of just walk all the way down the field. And you're just making it way too easy for them. So to me, most disappointing was just how the Bengals defended the run in this game.
The linebackers especially. No, those two guys, look, they're athletic, and one day they should be good players, assuming the development comes along. But it's the fact that they're starting 2 rookies at that position, and you can see the lack of vision and the lack of experience there, even when it comes to defending play action or leverage on certain pass plays and things like that. The linebacker, to me, the 2 disappointing things are the linebackers, like you just mentioned. When you take their linebackers combined, a 43 PFF grade. And then the other one here is just the Bengals, the late game situation here. I mean, to me, Zach Taylor called a really good game offensively until the last 2 drives. And I know the first play of this second to last drive might have been on Flacco because it was an RPO, but 3 straight passes when they're still up 6 points, just under 8 minutes left, 3 straight passes, 2 incompletions, and a sack, barely take a minute off the clock when you still had a lead. Punted away, the Jets take a lead, and then it just felt like they were out of sorts on that last drive. They were in the same position they were in last week, but this time more out of sorts. Running the ball on 2nd and 10 when you're running out of time and you need to get in field goal range. And then the Jets for just a handful of plays in this game, including the very last one. And, I've heard people ask, okay, why on the very last play could they not get the ball to Chase or Higgins? And Higgins only had one catch the entire day. The Jets finally decided, okay, we're just going to bracket both of these guys,
right,
and make them somebody else. If Yoshivas beats us, fine. If Tanner Hudson beats us, fine. If one of the backs beats us, fine. But the last 2 drives, I really thought just situationally, especially with the Bengals ran for around 8 yards a clip in this game. And then the second to last drive, when all they got to do, they kick a field goal on that second to last drive, they win the ball game. They're up 9, it's over. The Jets won't come back from that. But they left the door open on the second to last drive, and then it seemed like they were out of sorts on the final drive, just almost maybe shocked that they still had to come back and win this game like they did last week. So don't love the way the Bengals handled the late game situation here. But at the end of the day, their defense cost them this game.
Yeah.
They're just not good enough on defense, and especially without Trey Hendrickson for the whole second half, we're just doing this again with the Bengals, no matter who the quarterback is.
Yeah, if you score 38 points and you lose, I mean, there's no way around it. You're pissed.
Yeah.
Like there's no like, well, we did. You scored 38 points in an NFL game and you lost. That's it. I mean, people are obviously going to be mad, and they should be mad, but thrill of a game. For us watching, 39-38.
You're telling me it was quite a mood there in the stadium as it ended too. It was as some others in here can tell you, it was not the best mood. It's not the best mood around Cincinnati right now.
No, and I think everybody's just frustrated with everything that's going on. And I even asked the guys who produce the show, who are Cincinnati guys. I was like, "Is Joe Burrow coming back?" And Eli was like, "He better not." And I'm like, "I don't know, man. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep him off the field, especially." With him being the competitor that he is, and Zach Taylor's job
this is the thing. Every week they can score.
Yeah.
You've got those 2 guys on the outside. In the last couple of weeks, they've run the ball really well.
Joe Burrow's just going to play both sides like Sunshine in Remember the Titans.
Well, they got
the second half of the game, he played linebacker and he's playing.
They got to get Jamar Chase or somebody with Travis Hunter's trainer.
That's
or something.
true. A little NFL street style.
Like
NFL street style. You're just playing both sides of the ball.
I don't. They're especially you mentioned the linebackers. It was tough to watch in person. And
I want to be clear, like. That was always going to be a thing, right? Both these guys are young. They're fast. If you read both of their scouting reports, they both read as if this game is possible.
But it was also supposed to be originally Logan Wilson and Dimitri, and now Wilson's been sort of benched. He played, I think, 20-ish snaps yesterday, but it was always supposed to be Logan Wilson bringing these guys along, or even an Oren Burks, who I think played 1 snap.
Right.
Yes, he played 1 snap yesterday. I go just having 2 rookies out there. I think that factor is really hurting them.
It is. This is a learning game from them, unfortunately, as fans would see it. The Bills and the Panthers. The Buffalo Bills got back to their winning ways, and the Carolina Panthers were not able to defend home field like they had been in the past this season. 40-9 was the final score of this game. I thought this game was going to be a lot closer than this. I thought the Bills were going to win this game, but man, this game got away from them very quickly. We'll get to that in a second. Buffalo's top 5 graded players, running back James Cook, who Buffalo's run game is pretty much going to dominate the conversation here. 92.6 overall grade. Center Connor McGovern with a 90.5. Wide receiver Khalil Shakir with an 88.4. Offensive tackle Spencer Brown with an 83.7. Edge rusher AJ Epinesa with an 80.2. And then Josh Allen, 69.8. And I think some people are going to look at that and be like, well, how are you going to say that Josh Allen had a bad game? One, this is a good reminder to tell people that our grading system is not like a school grading system. An average grade is not a 75.0. So we are not saying that Josh Allen played below average. In fact, a neutral or an average grade starts at 60.0. So a 69.8 means that Josh Allen had a fine day. He just wasn't asked to do a lot. And we'll get to more of that in a second. On Carolina's side of things, their number 1 graded player was wide receiver Tetron McMillan with an 85.9. Offensive guard Damian Lewis right behind him with an 83.3. Offensive tackle Ike Ekwonu with an 81.1. Center Austin Corbett at 76.1. Wide receiver Jalen Coker back in the lineup with a 71.1. Andy Dalton in this game a 42.6. Dalton Statham told the story to get us kicked off here because I agree with you that this is the entire stat that told the story.
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, in any Panthers game you watch, and it sounds obvious, especially one of them, but in any Panthers game you watch, there's going to be 2 X factors, especially this season. 1, quarterback play. They didn't have Bryce Young, and you're going to talk about the Andy Dalton side of it. 2 is their run defense. The games where they've played solid in run defense, they've won, and the ones where they haven't, they didn't. The Bills, 4.9 yards before contact per carry. 4.9 yards per carry alone would be a pretty good day. This is 4.9 yards before contact per carry, before anybody was even touched. That's the highest mark of any team in any game this season. And the fun part is we had so many great rushing performances this season. The top three highest averages in that category in a single game this year all came this week with Buffalo and Denver and Philadelphia. If run defenses were put on notice this week with the way some of these teams ran the ball, and nobody did it better than the Bills, 170 total yards before contact in this game. The Bills' offensive line was dominating. James Cook obviously slicing through the defense. He's got to be my most impressive. I mean, really, he was just the best player on the field. 91.7 rushing grade, 216 yards. I think I saw it was the most rushing yards by a Bills player in almost 50 years. I think O.J. Simpson was the last player with more than that. 7 missed tackles forced, 7 explosive runs. And I think about it schematically, not only getting the yards before contact, but how they went about it. Working around Derek Brown, who in this game at least so often lined up on the weak side of these formations. And what happens there is the Bills are just going to go, okay, we've got multiple tight ends. We're going to stack the strong side, and that's the way we're going to run it. We're just going to do everything we can to run away from number 95 because he's the biggest threat to us here on the ground. They did that. They basically, Joe Brady did a great job of keeping him away from the football. And even if they went to the strong side or they shifted over and Brown was on that strong side, they went way outside of him. They basically just stayed out of number 95's range.
Smart.
The entire day. Absolutely smart. I mean, he's the biggest difference maker maybe on that entire team. You stay away from number 95, you get blocks up on the second level, especially on the strong side with Brown on the backside so often, and now you've got big plays in the run game for James Cook. That's really the big thing. I would expect that to be a blueprint for teams in the future of, okay, if they're going to line Derek Brown up so much up on the weak side all the time, well, let's just overload one way and see if he stays there, and we're just going to stay away from him. I think that's got to be the biggest factor when you're playing against the Panthers, but the Bills did a great job with it. Joe Brady with a great game plan. Josh Allen, I would place squarely in the good enough category in this game.
He's fine.
Look, when your back runs for 216 yards.
He didn't have to do anything.
He didn't have to do anything, right. I mean, Khalil Shakir made some nice plays too, but, I mean, this game really was, to me, about Joe Brady creating those opportunities for James Cook and working away from Derek Brown.
Yeah, and you mentioned 4.9 yards before contact average that this team had as a whole. If you just look at James Cook, and James Cook was good in this game. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but if you just look at James Cook in this game, 8.9 yards before contact average for James Cook. 163 total yards before contact. You are never beating a team.
Nope.
If that's going to be the case. I mean, you are damn near giving them a first down before contact every single time that he touches the ball. You're never going to beat a team like that, and that's how we get a score like 40-9. And I'll tell you how else we get there. Andy Dalton, 4 turnover-worthy plays in this game. He took 7 sacks, 3 were on him. One that cost them 3 points at the end of that first half there. And I think my big takeaway watching Andy Dalton live and then watching it back, watching the All-22 back, it just looks like he hasn't played in a while. Like he just looks like he has not played competitive football in a while. And I know he has in and out of the lineup for Bryce Young over the last couple of years. And so that's why I think this result in this game was sort of as shocking of how low the floor was for Andy Dalton. But it didn't feel like he was making decisions well or even quickly enough. The arm strength looks like it's kind of going for him at this point. And so I think all of those things just came together where he was not navigating the pocket well. He wasn't handling pressure well. He didn't have the arm strength to really get him out of trouble. He was late on certain throws. And I just don't think that he was seeing things correctly either. Whatever the Bills were doing, whether it was in their front or in their secondary, it was creating those moments of hesitation for him. And that's how you get those turnover-worthy plays. So not all of them were throws. A couple of them were fumbles. But it was a situation where you were never going to win that game. 1, defending the run, how Carolina defended the run. And then 2, with a quarterback playing like that. They just were not going to win this football game. And I think the fact that they scored single-digit points and the fact that they gave up 40, that's pretty obvious right there. My most impressive, obviously, the Bills run game that we talked about there. And then Yosh Nijman for the Carolina Panthers. I feel like the Panthers have been pretty good on the offensive line, even when their backups have had to play this season. But Nijman comes in the second half, 22.7 pass blocking grade, 2 sacks allowed, 5 pressures on just 14 pass blocking reps in the second half. He had 14 total pass blocking reps, and he's given up pressures on 5 of them. 2 sacks. It was just and he was not able to. Michael Hoyt specifically was just getting after him in this game, and a lot of it was just bull rush stuff. A lot of it was just power. We talked to Teron Armstead on the Wednesday show when we do previews, and Teron's done a really good job of highlighting the fact that we all love to talk about pass rushers and all the moves that they can do, right? Cross chop, a nice little spin move, a dip and rip, like whatever it is. We love pass rush moves. But at the end of the day, the first thing you have to defend is a bull rush. The first thing that you have to defend is power. Because if a defensive lineman goes straight at you, gets his hands up inside, has leverage, good leg drive, and can push you back into the quarterback's lap, guess what they're going to do the next play? That. And if you can't stop at that play, guess what they're going to do the next play? That. And that to me felt exactly like what Josh Nijman's day was. Michael Hoyt was just bull rushing him, speed to power, the whole time he was out there, and he couldn't handle it. And so he was the most disappointing for me.
That's where the Bills want to get to, is those obvious passing situations, because the run defense has struggled this year. 7 different defensive linemen with multiple pressures in this game. And obviously the Panthers were behind and then start throwing every play. That might happen, in part because of the situation. But no, certainly those are the 2 factors, I think, for the Panthers. It comes down to, I think, every week, quarterback play and run defense. Both of those things have been up and down this year, hence the Panthers, 4-4 record. So you're talking about a team that's trying to figure out how to work around some of their weaknesses, especially in run defense. Couldn't do that on this day. The Bills came out with a great game plan and physically dominated them.
Anything else here?
Nope.
All right, moving on. Next game, Browns-Patriots. Patriots end up winning this game 32-13. Let's take a look at the top 5 graded players that we had for New England. Safety Jalen Hawkins. Man, he has had some big moments this year. I'll highlight that a little bit more in a second, but 92.1, an elite defensive grade here. Linebacker Robert Spillane, another really good game from him as a free agent coming over from the Raiders. 84.5, tight end Austin Hooper, an 81.3. Cornerback Christian Gonzalez, a 79.1. Cornerback Marcus Jones with a 77.9, and then Drake May in this game, a 71.6. On Cleveland's side of things, Myles Garrett, 5 sacks in this game. 91.5 overall grade. Tight end Harold Fannin Jr., a 75.2. Linebacker Carson Schweschinger with a 75.0. Tight end David Njoku, a 73.6. And then linebacker Muhammad Diabate with a 71.7. Dylan Gabriel in this game, not his best, a 33.7. Stats have told the story here, Dalton.
I thought the first half of this game was really interesting. We went into halftime. It was 9-7 New England. They had just hit a field goal just before the half, and the Browns' defense was playing really well. Carson Schweschinger had an interception of Drake May that gave the Browns some momentum there. And I thought it looked like it was going to be another one of these Browns games where you're like, oh, it's going to be 17-14, one way or the other. Could they sneak away with a win because of their defense? Myles Garrett with 5 sacks, which is just ridiculous. I mean, what more? We say plenty about Myles Garrett here at PFF. We know that. And, what else can you say about 5 sacks even in a game where the Browns lost? Because we all know defensive ends, the wins are a defensive end stat.
Of course.
Trevor. We know that. But either way, it was really going to be about who came out in this third quarter and really hit the second level of adrenaline needed to win this game. That was New England. By the time when the third quarter started, you had something to watch, and by the time the third quarter was over, you had nothing left to watch. 21-0 in the third quarter. Patriots, 15 plays, 159 yards, obviously more than 10 yards of play, 10.5 yards of play, 82 offensive grade. The Browns go punt, interception. That's how the score widened all the way by that point to 30-7. It really was just, I think Mike Vrabel did a great job with this team understanding, listen, we're in a close game. I don't care what their record is. They got a really good defense. If we don't come out and punch this team in the mouth right away in the second half, we're going to keep them in this game, and that's how they win football games. And that dominant third quarter is what really carried New England to a win. And I just want to say, too, the first New England drive of that third quarter when they got the ball after a 3-and-out, that sequence of play calling, it was 7 plays. That sequence of play calling from Josh McDaniels, maybe the best drive that I've seen all year because he understood, okay, we're not beating this team between the tackles. We tried in the first half. It's this front seven with Garrett and Schlesinger and all these guys playing well. We got to get outside. We got some speed option working. We got some bootleg working for the touchdown at the end of the drive. If you go back and watch that very first drive of the second half for the Patriots, you will not see a better sequence of play calling, and it really set them up for success the rest of the second half because it was just, look, we got to, it's like a few others. We talked about it with Pittsburgh earlier, but the Browns more than anybody in the league, you got to work around this front seven. You're not going right through it. McDaniels did a great job of adjusting whatever it was that he put in or just decided to adjust at halftime was fantastic.
I think he's the most underrated assistant coach in the NFL because I think when people think about Josh McDaniels, they think about the failed head coaching stints with him.
And the fact that most of his career is with Tom Brady.
No, and obviously that as well, but now we're sitting here and it's like, yeah, now we just have an offensive coordinator who, man, what year was he the first in offensive coordinator?
Was it 07 or 08? Was he the OC on the record-setting team, or was he the next year?
So he was the offensive coordinator in 06. So he was with the Patriots as a quarterback coach in 04 and 05. And then he was the quarterback's coach and offensive coordinator in 2006. So you've got the head coach stint with the Broncos from 2009 to 2010. Obviously did not work out well. You have the second head coaching stint with him with the Raiders in 2022 and 2023. Obviously did not work well. But in between that, he was the offensive coordinator for the Patriots from 2006 to 2008, and then once again from 2012 to 2021, and now he's back as their offensive coordinator. So instead, now you have a guy who has just been in the NFL as an offensive coordinator or higher of a position for almost 20 years now. And sure, 4 of those seasons as a head coach didn't go well, but he's got 15 years of him being an excellent offensive coordinator. And if you want to sit here and say, well, of course, it was with Tom Brady, whatever it was, think of the wealth of knowledge that this guy has now at this point. He's no longer motivated by ego to be a head coach. He's gone for that stint twice now. It hasn't worked. Josh McDaniels is going to be an offensive coordinator in the NFL until he retires, I think. I mean, maybe he'll get another head coaching gig, but I don't think I don't even know if he wants that at this point, especially for how good he has it right now in New England. And so all that to say, it's the perfect spot for Drake May because you have an offensive coordinator who's not new. He's not up and coming. His coach isn't learning along the way as Drake May is learning. Josh McDaniels has seen it. He's seen it all for 20 years. He's won championships. He's played with the GOAT. He gets it. He's had successes. He's had failures. This could not be a more perfect situation for Drake May. And in a game where Drake May was struggling a little bit with one of the best defenses in the NFL, what you just said means so much. The fact that McDaniels can go into halftime and actually have adjustments and be able to explain the adjustments means so much. I can't remember what coach said this recently. But I was listening to some coach and they were like, halftime adjustments happen. Like, it wasn't saying like it doesn't happen, but it doesn't happen to the extent that like fans often think it does. Like, I think fans sometimes believe that you can have like a whole new week's worth of practice in the 15 minutes that you're all in the locker room and you can come up with just this completely different game plan. A lot of time it really is the word adjustments is doing a lot of the heavy lifting there. They're not coming up with a completely new game plan. A lot of times it is adjusting things here and there. McDaniels actually has that ability to adjust things at a high level for this offense and for Drake May. And I think that is really what we're seeing. And I think that some people might look at this matchup and go, yeah, it was against the Browns. Who cares? Yeah, but you're talking about, and what we're talking about is an adjustment against one of the best defenses in the NFL that they did a really good job of. So I didn't expect to go on a Josh McDaniels rant, but there it is. My staff that told the story, Patriots defense on early down specifically. We saw Dylan Gabriel's grade in this one, a 33.7 overall grade. The Browns were 2 for 11 on third down, so 18% here in this game. Obviously not good enough to probably win a football game. Only 2 of their third downs had a down and distance of 5 or less. So the rest of their third downs were a lot longer. They forced a negative 0.135 EPA per play on early down, so first and second down. That was sixth best in the NFL this week. And their 87.5 team defensive grade on early downs, once again, first and second down, that was the best defensive grade that we had in the NFL for week 8 of any of these teams. So specifically, the Patriots setting the tone and executing correctly on first and second down put the Cleveland Browns in disadvantageous situations where they really didn't have the option to run the ball, and it forced Dylan Gabriel to sit back in the pocket, handle pressure, scan the field, all of that good stuff. And the early part of the game, I noticed, they were sending pressure. They actually were starting to send pressure on those third down situations, and Gabriel, to his credit, actually handled a couple of them pretty well. And then the Patriots are like, all right, fine. We'll rush 4. We got faith in our 4. We think they'll get home. We think they'll rattle you enough. We think that because you're a rookie quarterback, you'll probably see ghosts a little bit. And then you're going to have to deal with more coverage players on the back end. And that's when he really started to struggle. So a really good job of the Patriots on early downs for their defense here in this game.
And I was going to point out their run defense, too, was just outstanding. The Browns had 68 rushing yards as a team. 31 of them were a jet sweep to Malachi Corley, and another 13 were a Dylan Gabriel scramble. Quinshon Judkins has he had 9 carries for 19 yards in this game. So if the Browns can't run the football, and you just mentioned, okay, we'll just send 4 at their pass protection. Well, this is the worst pass blocking team in the league, too. It's a part of the reason why the quarterbacks have struggled so much. Yeah, it makes sense. If you stop the run against this Cleveland team, you're going to have a lot of success. And the head of that run defense this week, and as it should be most weeks, is the middle linebacker, Robert Spillane. Trev, when I turn on the Browns' offensive side of this tape, I felt like I couldn't go more than maybe 2 snaps without seeing Robert Spillane do something. 13 tackles, 5 stops, 90.7 run defense grade, and an interception, which I really thought was the play that started to put this game away, and 2 pressures as a blitzer. He was all over the place. And I mean, again, I've talked about this before, too, with New England. Veteran guys like that, like Robert Spillane, like Stephon Diggs at times, like, even an Austin Hooper grading highly in this game, Hunter Henry, the veteran guys, too, are as much a contribution to this as Drake May and Christian Gonzalez and Kayshon Boutte and a lot of the young guys, because they're getting them. This was another game. I mean, again, the final score was wide, but there was some adversity in this game. This was a tough first half, and the Patriots came out and said, hey, stay the course. McDaniels will make the adjustments. We'll force a turnover on defense, and this game is over by the end of the third quarter. That's how fast it can happen, and just a credit to the mix of guys. Once again, I know I've been saying it a lot, but the mix of guys the Patriots have and the experienced coaching staff, it's making a huge difference.
Yeah, I love Jalen Hawkins in this game as well. He's had a couple of games now this season where he's graded above an 80, maybe both games I think were above an 85. Certainly this game he graded above an 85. I thought he was pretty good in run defense, 72.1 run defense grade. 92.1 overall defensive grade. That's thanks to 89.7 coverage grade, which I don't know if you saw the interception.
Yep.
Probably one of the craziest interceptions that we're going to see
just
this season. Now, I don't know if he plays the ball super. No, he plays the ball well. I don't know if he plays the route super well, because if you watch, he's in a free safety spot, and the wide receiver kind of gets behind him, and he sort of takes an interesting path to get to the point where he intercepts that football with one hand. But the result was phenomenal, and it was a great play by Jalen Hawkins, and he has been sort of an underrated player on this defense, I think, throughout the season, who's been playing really well. Anything else on this one before we move on?
No, I mean, the Browns are what they are. I mean, we know that their defense will keep them in games. If their offense can give them something, they can win. If not, like in this game, then so be it.
I think that we're getting closer to Shedeur getting a legit shot for this team at some point. I'm not saying that they should make the change for him this week. I think that Gabriel is going to get at least another 3 weeks as the starting quarterback. But if he continues to not really be a factor in them winning football games, I could see them certainly in the second half of the season wanting to give Shedeur at least a little bit of a runway here, because you want to give at that point, if the Browns continue to struggle, because what's the Browns record right now? They are
2 and something. Are they 2 and 6? Is it? Have they had a bye yet?
They're 2 and 6. So if the next 3 weeks, actually, let's take a look. So the Browns,
You did this last week, and then they immediately, or last time with Flacco, and they immediately flipped the switch on you. See that?
Maybe
is
I'm
it
the
you? Is it you? Are you the death knell?
So they have a bye week coming up. So it's a bye week, and then it's at the Jets, daunting, coming off a big, huge win. A lot of confidence. And then it's versus the Ravens, who are getting more healthy now at this point. And then it's at Las Vegas for the Raiders. I think at that point, week 13, we're kind of on Shedeur watch for this team. because then you have 2 games at home. You have the Niners and you have the Titans. Then you're at Chicago, and then you're at home again, Bills, Steelers, and then you're at the Cincinnati Bengals to end the season. You want to at least give yourself 4 or 5 games with Shedeur, because if things don't go well over these next 3 games, like let's even say they go 1-2, but Gabriel doesn't look very great, right? And they're sitting here at 3-8 going into the last stretch of their season. The most important question for you to answer then is, do we think that we have the guy for 2026 on the roster right now at the quarterback position? If you don't think it's Gabriel, is it going to be Shedeur? Because I don't know what Deshaun Watson's contract is, but I got to think they're going to get out of that as soon as possible.
Yeah, you're not going back to that.
And at 3-8, you're going to be in contention for a top 5, if not the number 1 overall pick. That's when I think we start to have the Shedeur Sanders conversation with this team. He was not the backup quarterback in this game. Bailey Zappi was, but that's because Shedeur got added to the injury report for a back injury, so I don't really know exactly what's going on with that situation. But I do think that if we continue to trend this way, we'll see Shedeur Sanders at some point for the Browns, and then depending on how he plays, we'll have a much clearer picture of what the Browns might actually do and how aggressive they're going to be to improve that position this offseason. We're going to talk about the Giants and the Eagles. Next, Eagles getting back to eating their vegetables, if you will. I think it's probably a good way to put it. But before we get to that, parenting. It's filled with all sorts of high-pressure decisions, right? It can be difficult to tell if we've made the right decisions for our kids' future, but here is a simple decision that you guys can make today that could have a meaningful impact on your kids' future. That's opening up a UGMA kids investment account with Fabric to start their investment journey and give them a financial head start. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kids investment account for Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. Kids can't invest while they're minors, but a UGMA kids investment account allows you to invest in their behalf, gives their investments so much more time to grow. No contribution limits on it. It's got multiple tax advantages for you. It's SIPC insured up to $500,000 plus. There's no commission fees to it, just a low flat monthly maintenance fee. The whole thing is online. Setting up an account could take you as little as just 5 minutes, and then you get started investing with as little as $1 a day. You can manage your child's account and monitor those investments right from your phone. Funds can be used for anything. When they're younger, maybe it's for books, summer camps, tuition, sports, after-school activities. And then when they're older, maybe you're helping them buy their first house, buy their first car, start a business, whatever that looks like. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. That's meetfabric.com/PFFNFL, meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. For the portfolios are managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Additional services provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. You guys can learn more at meetfabric.com. Giants and the Eagles. Philly gets their revenge here. This time in Philly. A couple weeks later, it was in New York for Thursday Night Football. Giants got a surprise win there, but Eagles win this one 38-20. Top 5 graded players that we had for Philly. Running back Tank Bigsby, 94.7. Limited in his work, but pretty explosive. Center Brett Toth, I'm going to talk about him here in a second. 88.6, getting his first start for this team at center this week. He was excellent. Wide receiver Devontae Smith at 86.6. Offensive guard Tyler Steen at 84.9. Running back Saquon Barkley at 83.1. And then Jalen Hurts in this game, a little above average for where sort of a neutral grade would be for him at a 60.0. And he graded out with a 63.1. We'll talk a little bit more about Jalen Hurts in a second. But on the Giants side of things, edge rusher Kayvon Thibodeau at 85.3, running back Tyrone Tracy at 78.1, offensive tackle Jermaine Illuminor with a 75.5, edge rusher Abdul Carter at 74.4. Rounding us out, it's Andrew Phillips, their cornerback, with a 72.0. Quarterback Jackson Dart in this game at 81.1. Dalton Stats told the story.
I think, once again, this is one of a few teams that just was outstanding running the ball, right? The Eagles are getting back to it. Now they're getting back to the formula they won a Super Bowl with, and the Eagles 8 explosive runs of 10 or more yards, their most since week 14 of last season. So it's starting to look like last year's offense. Last week against Minnesota started to get under center more. Multiple tight ends, jumbo packages with 6 offensive linemen getting downhill with more duo schemes in the run game. They leaned even further into that this week. 8 of those 8 explosive runs, 5 of them came from under center. 125 yards before contact. I know you have more stats on that, but second most in any game this year, only behind the Bills playing the Panthers at the same time. So it was a really good day for running it. I know it was National Tight End Day, but there were times it felt like National Running Back Day. And the Eagles, this needs to be the formula. Just like Josh Allen, I think we're watching the same game here. Jalen Hurts, I would put his grade and his performance in the good enough category, right? He made some nice play action throws, especially that intermediate range without A.J. Brown. They really had to run the ball like this to score points. I think that made a big difference for him, and hopefully they can continue that when Brown does get back. And look, I'll just throw in my most impressive. Both backs were great. I think, something that I was a little worried about coming into the season was Saquon Barkley's workload that he had last year amidst a record-setting season. And the Eagles' lack of depth. They signed A.J. Dillon. He wasn't really panning out. Will Shipley doesn't really project as a between-the-tackles kind of back that you can rely on for 10, 12, maybe even 14 carries. I think he's more of a pass catcher, kick returner. You can use him in special situations. But trading for Tank Bigsby from Jacksonville gives them a more physical between-the-tackles option. You look at him, 9 carries for 104 yards. You'll take that. You'll take 11.5 yards a carry all the time. Five explosive runs on just 9 carries and force 5 missed tackles. You get that guy in there to spell Barkley on a day like this when Barkley himself, 14 carries is all he needed to get 150 yards. We know how explosive he is, plus he caught a touchdown. These two guys could be a really fun tandem. I think the addition of Bigsby to this room to really give them a true RB2, just to not have Barkley, even if you're trying to run the football more. Last year they led the league in run rate. If you're trying to do that again, it's going to be hard to have Barkley doing it by himself for a whole nother season and another postseason run. I think that's a big addition, and their offensive line played very well on the interior, especially like you mentioned.
Yeah, we talked about yards before contact for the Buffalo Bills and how when they are running at a clip where they're having that much success before contact, you're not really going to lose many football games. And I think that was the case here with the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's what we've been begging them to do, is get back to running the football and really being a team that's sort of this smash mouth and we'll take it to you. And certainly whether it's between the tackles or outside the tackles, whatever the Eagles are doing, it was working for them against the Giants yesterday. 8.3 yards before average, yards before contact average for Saquon Barkley. 141 of those total yards came before contact for the team overall. And so it was just an excellent job by the offensive line. And I think that they were my most impressive. I want to go to the Eagles offensive line specifically. Toth, Steen, Dickerson, all of these guys on the interior had run blocking grades above 85. And I think that Toth is the one who really stands out to me because he's sort of been this journeyman around the NFL. He's been on practice squads. He's been cut by teams. He's been in and out of lineup. He's not been on Philly for a little bit here, but 34.6 impact run blocking percentage in this game, is which it was his first starting at the center position with Cam Jurgens out. And so I thought he did an excellent job. And going back and watching his film, he's everything that you would want for sort of that center position. He's firing off the ball low. He's winning with leverage. He's getting to the second level. He's dictating the first contact. He's knocking those defensive linemen back initially and not really giving them a chance to gain ground and fire off the football. His quickness, his leverage, his technique, I thought was excellent in this game. I read an interview afterwards where he was talking about how he's somebody who overthinks a lot, and so he's like, my first week where I was starting as a center, I felt like I was overthinking a lot throughout the week. I was kind of getting in my own head, and I kind of just let myself play pretty freely today, and I tried to not overthink it, and you could tell he's got the talent, or at least he's got the technique and the execution to be able to have a really good run-blocking day in the middle of that offensive line, and he really did, and so he was the big shout-out for me here in this one.
Yeah, no, I agree. One more guy I'll throw in there is Fred Johnson. He's really the 6th offensive lineman. And another guy, wasn't it Jacksonville who had him, and then the Eagles traded for him back as well, where the Jaguars are just feeding Philadelphia everything they need right now. Jeez. But no, Fred Johnson as the 6th offensive lineman, and what that's been doing schematically for them, too, when they get under center in these big sets, running the football, and then it sells the play action even more so for Jalen Hurts when he is under center. And that's what's working for the Eagles right now. They should just stick to that formula.
Most impressive or most disappointing? Anything we didn't hit for you?
It just really sucks to see this Cam Scatterbo injury. Dude. Really, I know Jackson Dart's the quarterback and the captain and all that, but Cam Scatterbo was really the heart and soul of this team.
I agree 100%.
And it really sucks to see that. And hopefully we'll see him relatively early next year coming off an injury like that, and he can get back to 100%. But he really he made the Giants a lot of fun to watch this year, as he did in college at Arizona State, too. Yep. So, you wish him a speedy recovery, because that was really – him and Dart together in that backfield were really the catalyst behind the Giants' success the last few weeks.
Yeah, and I think that the injury itself, obviously, we all hate to see that, and it sucks. But when you now compound that with Malik Neighbors, now we get in a situation where how fair is it to judge Brian Daboll now this year? And some Giants fans may be like, no, we want him out anyways. Like we've had years to judge him, and I think that there's merit to what you guys would be saying on that side of things with just the volume of years that you've had with Brian Daboll. But it kind of sucks because there were good things that were going on this year once Jackson Dart got inserted in the lineup, once they had Cam Scatterbo to lean on as a rusher and a receiver out of the backfield. And can you imagine how good it could have looked with Malik Neighbors then getting into the fold, and if he would have been fully healthy? And I think that's the part that just really sucks is the Giants might come to the conclusion, and Giants fans might come to the conclusion that they just want to move on and they don't want to have Brian Daboll anymore. And there's a better chance than not that the Giants are going to be a below 500 team, and they're just not going to be very good this year, especially with their stars on offense now all going down for the season, or most of them going down for the season. It just sucks anytime you're in an evaluation year and two of the best players that you have on your side of the expertise, your side of the ball where you have the expertise, you don't even get to use at their disposal anymore.
I think two factors are going to play the role in Daboll's fate. One, how hard do they continue playing? Because I think that's a big thing. They've been playing with a ton of effort lately and being close. Not as close in this game because Saquon in the run game just dominated. But how much effort does this team continue to play with on a week-in, week-out basis? And then the big thing is the development of Jackson Dart. And he has looked very good since he's been the starter. Can he continue to do that through even further adversity? I think that'll really show itself and be a reflection of Daboll there on the sideline as well.
We do have a $2 super chat. If you want to dig into this one really quickly, this is from Skywalker, $2 super chat. He's like, why do you guys hate Brian? Meaning Brian Burns. Brian Burns in this game because he wasn't a top 5 graded player that we had here. Brian Burns got a sack in this game. Had a pressure, but didn't grade super well overall. We don't have the sack as a win percentage, I don't think, because his win percentage was low in this game. But run defense also brought this game down, or brought his grade down a little bit. He had a 46.2 run defense grade in this one. He had 16 run defense snaps. Didn't make a tackle in this game, had a missed tackle in this game, which will obviously hurt you a little bit. Positively and negatively graded run defense plays were near even, but the missed tackle certainly hurts when that's the case. But, I think it's the run defense grades that were a little bit lower, and even with the sack that he had, he wasn't consistently a difference-making pass rusher in this game, from a one-on-one standpoint.
Just the Eagles won this game in the trenches, on the offensive side especially, and that's just what's going to happen on the other side of that.
Yeah, I'm watching the sack now. Yeah, so even the sack from Burns, I mean, this is a play where Hurts hangs onto the ball for 5 seconds, and he's going up against a double team. He's never really expected to beat that, but he gets around them 3.5 seconds into the play, and Hurts just runs straight back into Brian Burns. So it's one of those, it's like, okay, like, obviously the sack is good. You came up with the sack, but we're not individually giving you a ton of credit for making the sack more than 4 or 5 seconds into a play, especially when Hurts was looking one way. He was looking this way. Brian Burns is behind him, rushing from that side of the line. And he, spins this way. And as he spins, he meets Brian Burns again 4 or 5 seconds into the play. So that's just to give people an idea of sort of how we grade. That's one where, yes, you get the sack. Obviously, it's a good play. We're not saying that you have, we're not saying that the sack is, a bad result. But you're not necessarily winning from a one-on-one standpoint.
Like you mentioned about the offensive lineman, now you have it on the defensive side where, it's you get to that point where if you get past that 3.5 second mark where you get credit, you will get a positive grade, but not at the highest level, whereas if you beat a guy in 1.8 seconds and just completely collapse the pocket. Also in a situation where Hurts was charged with 2 of the sacks that he took in this game as opposed to the offensive line, it would be very likely that that's one of them holding on to the ball and spinning back into the pressure.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Like Walt is saying, wait, you don't have a sack as a win percentage. How is that possible? That's how it's possible. It's like, if you go watch this specific play, you go watch the Brian Burns play, you'll see, he eventually gets by those 2 players, but you wouldn't really categorize that play as him winning his assignment on the play. Now, again, he's getting double teamed. So I think that
there's a category, like especially the late play sacks and scrambles like that we put into the cleanup category is essentially what we call it. So you do get credit for the end result of that.
Right.
But because it's the cleanup element to it that it's not considered, if you're getting at 4.5 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever the time to throw was on that play, if you're getting it that late, and again, it's pretty clearly because Hurts held on to the ball too long, then that one rep wouldn't go into the win rate.
Yeah. So just explaining that a little bit more, but we love all those sorts of questions. So if people have those, we'll always try to answer them as best as we possibly can. The Bears and the Ravens, the next game that we're talking about here. Baltimore wins this one 30-16. The doom and gloom talk can stop for a week here, even without Lamar Jackson in this game. Top 5 graded players that we had for the Baltimore Ravens. Linebacker Roquan Smith facing his old team, an elite 90.7 overall grade. Center Tyler Linderbaum right behind him with a 79.6. Wide receiver Zay Flowers is 76.6. Wide receiver Rashad Bateman is 73.5. And then cornerback Marlon Humphrey is 71.6. Tyler Huntley in this game a 72.1. Pretty good game from Snoop Huntley there. Chicago side of things, linebacker Tremaine Edmonds, their top guy on the list with an 80.2. Offensive tackle Darnell Wright is 78.8. Wide receiver Roma Dunze is 74.9. Linebacker Noah Sewell, 74.7. Center Drew Dahlman rounding things out at number 5 with a 74.6. And then Caleb Williams in this game had a 60.0. Dead even. It's like you didn't play.
Traffic cone.
Just kidding. There's a lot to dig into with Caleb Williams, which I'll dig into a little bit more in a second. But what was your stat that told the story?
The biggest difference for me and what I thought for the last couple weeks had been the biggest reason for the Bears' success the last 2 weeks especially was their ability to run the football. Ben Johnson really getting this team comfortable in his offense, running the ball, and then getting back to the play-action passing game, the rollouts with Caleb Williams, things of that nature. After the first quarter especially, the Ravens had a big advantage running the football. For the game, 177 rushing yards for the Ravens, 173 of them in the final 3 quarters, whereas the Bears, 96 for the game, only 55 after getting 41 in the first quarter. Bears season lows, 23 carries, didn't run the football as much as they wanted to. 35 yards after contact, only a 51 rushing grade as a team in this game. That was the difference for me, is that this game, the Ravens ran the ball better, especially after the first quarter. They got ahead, and they made Caleb Williams beat them. Couldn't do it. That's really the part where, there's been a lot of frustration even, towards us about, okay, why is Caleb Williams not graded higher? The Bears have won 4 games in a row and things like that. And there's so many other factors on a football team that can go into winning and losing games. I felt like the biggest factor the last 2 weeks was their ability to run the football. This game, for me, it was the lack thereof, right? Especially after a hot first quarter, and they were kicking field goals instead of scoring touchdowns. But their offensive success early in this game came from the balance in their offense, and that went away as the game went on. You mentioned Roquan Smith as their highest graded player. You could call this game Roquan's revenge if you want to, but I think that's really the big thing for me, is there wasn't the balance in Ben Johnson's offense on this day.
For me, the Bears' penalties are just such a big issue for them. 11 penalties, 79 yards in this game. Dalton, this is the 3rd week in a row that they've had double-digit penalties as a team, and there are penalties all over the place. It's illegal procedure. It's in the neutral zone. It's offsides. It's post-snap penalties. Like, they're all over the place of just poorly disciplined issues from this team. They are 5th in the NFL in total penalties called against them, and they are tied for 3rd in the NFL with most penalties accepted against them. So this is just one of the least disciplined teams in the NFL, and it just keeps coming back to bite them. It's situations where, all right, it was 1st and 10, now it's 1st and 15. All right, it's 2nd or 3rd and short. Okay, well, now we're in a much longer down in distance. Like, whatever it is, maybe it's them picking up a first down. Nope, the penalty called it back. Here's an explosive play. Nope, a penalty called it back. Like, whatever it is, whether it's been this week or previous weeks, it's the undisciplined nature of this team that just continues to bite them here. And I think that will continue to be a stat that told the story for the Chicago Bears unless they're getting it, unless they really start to get it fixed. So we're going to continue to talk about it here. My most disappointing, though, beyond that stat, because I think that was sort of the one that told the story, because the Bears keep shooting themselves in the foot. Sort of decent transition here. Caleb Williams' footwork, lower body mechanics to me, in this game specifically, at points throughout the season, but this game specifically, is a reason why he's not able to complete passes at the consistent rate that we know he has the talent to be able to do so. Caleb had an 18.8 uncatchable, inaccurate pass percentage this week. That was 8th worst of any quarterback that played this week. What was this? This was 24.8% uncatchable pass rate this season. That's the second lowest behind Dylan Gabriel as well, with a minimum of 40 attempts. So if you see those numbers, and those numbers stood out to me, and I looked them up specifically because I was watching this live, and I was like, okay, did the numbers kind of back this up? And they did. And then I went to the all 22 of him, and I don't know why Caleb Williams does this. Actually, I do. It's because he did this at USC, and he got away with it.
Yep, that's honestly, that's the stem of a lot of his issues.
So much of his issues. And I think it goes into a little bit deeper of a draft philosophical thing where players can get better and change when they go from college football to the NFL. But it does not happen at the rate in which a lot of people, myself included as a draft analyst, probably talk about it. We just go, oh, they're when they get to the NFL, they'll get proper coaching, they'll get a little bit better. You don't know that. It's not this guarantee. I think a lot of us think that it's like Madden, where if you sim a season, you have a younger player, guess what? That player's just going to naturally go up. They get better. That does not happen in real life at the clip in which we think, or the consistency at which we think that it normally does. And I'm watching Caleb Williams yesterday, and he is missing, whether it's he's sailing the passes or it's far to the outside or whatever it is, and his feet, a half second before he throws the ball, his feet go cinder blocks, just straight into the ground. Stop moving. And before that, I think he's fine. He's light on his feet. He's moving around. He's keeping things, where he could kind of swivel and go through protections. But right when he sees, it's like when he gets to his progression, he goes, I'm going to throw this ball. He stands there, and then it's like his upper body goes to throw the football, and his lower body doesn't mirror it. And that's when we start to get a lot of those inaccuracies. And until that is fixed, Caleb will always be less accurate of a quarterback than his talent warrants him to be. And I think this past game was a big-time manifestation of that.
No, that's exactly it, is that he, coming up, especially in college and USC and winning the Heisman and all of that, he was always just better than everybody across from him, right? And he could, and the mechanics were something that were allowed to be loose and allowed not to be. I mean, honestly, I did a breakdown on this. I'm looking at it now. I did a breakdown on this exact problem, the footwork, back in the summer, back in June, where it was exactly that. He leans back from throws as opposed to stepping into them, especially when there's a blitzer coming. He's just kind of loose and uses the arm talent all the time, and it's not consistently pinpoint, right? When you watch some of the guys with more consistent mechanics, even like Patrick Mahomes has this actually even a little bit, but he's so good, and he's so good with the arm angles that he gets it there more often than not. But when you look at the guys with more consistent mechanics, Drew Brees was always like this. Tom Brady worked on his mechanics every offseason. Joe Burrow has as consistent mechanics as anybody in football, where it's everything. You don't question the accuracy. You don't question the ball placement. It's going to get where it needs to be. Or even at times they talk about there's certain places where, okay, if you're going to miss, this is where you should miss. Those quarterbacks are really good at that too. We're going, okay, if you're going to miss outside, and they do. With Caleb, it is still scattershot and accuracy. Josh Allen didn't fix this till his third season. He went in the offseason, I believe he worked with Jordan Palmer, and he fixed his footwork in his lower body. And then it was, Josh Allen's accurate now. And is he ever going to be the most? Is Josh Allen ever going to be Drew Brees, Joe Burrow accurate? No, but a lot better than, because you remember Allen was the same way his first 2 years. It was all over the place.
Well, that goes into when people bring up the term arm arrogance. This is a little bit of what goes into that, where you think you have such a great arm. And to be honest with you, up to this point in Caleb Williams' life, and up to that point in Josh Allen's life, his arm could get away with stuff. Whether he was in high school, college, wherever it was, his arm was so good, he had such incredible arm talent that he could get away with those things. And when you get to the NFL, you can't. Defenses are too good. They're too fast. They are too well-educated, to be honest. Like, in these defensive coordinators, like, no. This is the only place that he could throw the football. Break on it early. and that will force a quarterback to be more accurate than they need to, and you just have a lot more tight throws. So I agree with you completely. This is something that Josh Allen wasn't able to fix until his third year, and now he became unstoppable. And I don't know if that's going to happen with Caleb Williams, but I can tell you that here we are, year 2 of Caleb Williams, and his lower body mechanics are not consistently married to what he is doing up top. And the inaccurate passes and the plays where you're watching live and you go, Caleb, how did you miss that? That's going to continue to happen unless he gets those lower body mechanics in order. For you, most impressive, most disappointing.
Caleb Williams, yeah. I mean, exactly everything you just said right there is it's still very much a work in progress. And honestly, aside from one almost interception he threw in the fourth quarter to Kevin Byard, Tyler Huntley was really good. He was everything the Ravens could have asked for in this game, 17-22, 186 and a touchdown. One big-time throw, did have the one turnover-worthy play, which drags it down a bit. Also 8 carries for 53 yards. He basically did everything you could ask a backup quarterback to do in this game. Make the throws that we need you to on third down, distribute the football, keep the run game going, run it for yourself a little bit. I mean, he gave them maybe their biggest win of the season. If they're going to come back from a 1-5 hole and make the playoffs, win this division with Lamar Jackson, I think we're going to look back at this game and the way Tyler Huntley played. He was really good.
You know the Ravens are now favored to win the division.
Did it ever even get off of that? Even
yeah,
at
it
1-5?
did. It did last week because I looked and I was very mad that Vegas was as sharp as they were. So I was like,
Oh, you felt like you were going to
I'm going to bet the Ravens here. And the return was like, it was basically even. It was basically even money between them and
they do. If Lamar Jackson's coming back soon, maybe this week, they do have a lot of winnable games. But you know what we say about winnable games, or what we think we say about winnable games around here.
Go ahead.
Winnable games are only winnable if you win them, Trevor.
Correct. Yeah.
Maybe now you go sharp the other way. Although, I mean, you got the Bengals losing to the Jets. When's the last time Rodgers lost a revenge game? That seems weird.
It does.
I mean, it's not really wasn't his fault, obviously. He doesn't play defense yet. We'll see.
Nah, Burrow's coming back. Bengals got it. All right, the most impressive in this game
Sanders, maybe?
for me, rookie. I'm not going to do it.
Oh.
Roquan Smith, revenge game. 90.7 overall defense grade, 84.7 run defense grade. Led the team with 12 tackles in this one and had an 89.9 coverage grade. I had his coverage numbers up here. He had 31 coverage reps in this game. He was targeted 4 times in coverage, gave up 3 receptions, but only for 14 yards. So he was on top of it in this game. Really good game from Roquan Smith. Anything else before we move on?
Nope.
Okay. 49ers and the Houston Texans. Houston wins this one 26-15. Top 5 graded players that we had for the Texans. Cornerback Amari Lassiter, 89.9 overall grade in this one. Dalton, I think the best cornerback duo in the NFL resides in Houston. Agree or disagree?
I think that's reasonable. Do you count Quignon and DeJean with the inside-outside thing? Does that count? I'm thinking of others at the
I didn't think
moment.
so, but they're up there too.
They're certainly up there. I just didn't know if we were counting that with the nickel thing.
Might be a good debate.
Might
be a good debate.
Role.
Look at the numbers a little bit more. Wide receiver Jalen Noel, number 2 on this list, 83.3. Linebacker Henry To'oTo'o, an 83.0. Wide receiver Xavier Hutchinson, a 75.8. Offensive tackle Ariante Ursary, a 75.3. C.J. Stroud in this game is 79.8. On San Francisco side of things, offensive tackle Trent Williams, an 81.3. Tight end George Kittle, 78.4. Edge rusher Sam, oh boy. I don't know how you say his name. I don't know. Sam O. That's what I'm gonna call him.
No, this is a moment.
I couldn't even attempt it.
You're the host.
No, you're the host now. Now you gotta say it.
No, unless Tyler says I'm the host, you're the host.
That's Big Sammy O. It's just Big Sammy O. That's what we all.
It's like Albert.
Nah, yeah, it's what we all call him over here.
Okay.
So we all call him. That's on me. I got to look up the name. Got to make sure that I get that one right because he's number 3 on the list here. 71.5. Cornerback Renardo Green, 69.8. Defensive tackle Kalia Davis with a 68.2, and then Mac Jones in this game is 78.8. Sadly told the story, Dalton.
The 49ers really struggled to get a pass rush going. First, we knew this was coming eventually, we thought, without Nick Bosa, but with Bryce Huff being out for this game, it really allowed C.J. Stroud a lot of clean pockets to work with. And you look at the Texans' offensive line in a pretty good matchup for them. They succeeded, and we don't get to say that very often lately, especially over the last year and a half. 77 0.7 team pass blocking grade, their highest since week 17 of 2023. CJ Stroud only pressured on 12 out of 45 dropbacks. Of those 12, only 5 of them came with a 4-man rush. 7 of them, 12 times that Robert Saleh blitzed CJ Stroud. He got there 7 times, but Stroud was just able to maneuver the pocket and really had so much space to work back there and just kept completing passes when he needed to, especially on third down. The Texans 9 of 16 on third down, 1 of 1 on fourth down as well, and they had the ball for 41 and a half minutes. I mean, that's really a big reason. The run game has been a little bit better for the Texans, at least passable, but the fact that the 49ers just could not touch C.J. Stroud in this game, that was really the biggest difference. And, you know, I wanted to look at the 49ers offense and go, okay, what went wrong here other than playing against a great defense? But they just never had the football, and that's because the Niners could never disturb C.J. Stroud in the pocket.
Yeah, I agree. I do think that was the stat that told the story here. Niners defensive line, you talked a little bit about it there, talking about the Texans and pass protection, but 5 total pressures from the Niners defensive line. We talked about how this was going to be an issue week in and week out. Some weeks they were going to mitigate it a little bit better. This was just a week where they didn't, with not having Nick Bosa anymore for this season. 5 total pressures, 26.2 passes win rate as a team. It's never going to get it done for you. And I think that it was nice. I know Niners fans won't agree with this, but it was nice to see C.J. Stroud play well in this game, because I think there's a lot of people who have looked at the offensive line struggles with this team, and they have really taken it out on Stroud. And what I always dislike in conversations about quarterbacks is the bar should not be perfection for these quarterbacks. And I think that when things go wrong, and then when consequently the quarterback play suffers because of the offensive line play, for example, people will go, well, the quarterback's not playing well either. Well, yeah, he's not playing well because we individualize player performances, because there are ways that you could do that. But at the end of the day, like, it is a team game. So when the offensive line's not playing well for CJ Stroud, CJ Stroud is not going to be perfect in that game. He's going to struggle as well. And it's when things go right that CJ Stroud reminds you, I'm still good. And that's what I really enjoyed seeing in this game, because the line is not going to be great for the majority of what we see this season. Hopefully it's going to be better next year. But at least we got to once again see that when the line is okay, when the line is playing well, CJ also plays well. It's not like he was terrible and that he's in this big slump. He had an opportunity to play better because the offensive line was playing better, and he absolutely sees that. And I like that from him, but I think the Niners not being able to disrupt him is truly the stat that told the story here.
It's both, and Stroud mentioned it multiple times after the game, I think, including in the locker room, that he's like, hey, offensive line, best day of the year. I mean, you watch this game and you kind of agree with that, especially in pass protection, right? And that allows him the space to get the ball to his weapons. And I'll tell you what, I want to talk about his weapons a little bit, because you know what, C.J. Stroud, he came from a wide receiver factory in Ohio State, right? And, you know, there's always some debate in college about who's wide receiver you. Is it Ohio State? Is it LSU? And that's certainly going to appeal to whoever their new coach is. Who is it? You know what? Yeah, these guys coming out of Iowa State under Matt Campbell there, they're trying to make a case for it.
What a squad. What a trio they ran out there.
You look at the 2 rookies. You've got Jalen Knoll, the speedster of them, 5 catches, 63 of them, 63 yards, 4 first downs out of those 5 catches. The elder statesman, Xavier Hutchinson, a little bit older than the 2 rookies, 5 catches, 69 yards and a touchdown. Jaden Higgins had a touchdown. All of a sudden, it's just you get all these Iowa State Cyclones all on one team for C.J. Stroud. And CJ's like, well, I came from Ohio State. I had some pretty good crews over there with Garrett Wilson and Smith and Jigba and those guys. But whatever they're doing in Ames to get these receivers going in the NFL, it's working. And Houston's just collecting them. I'm sure absolutely that D'Amico Ryans, he's going to call Matt Campbell this offseason and be like, hey, you got any more of those? Because these guys are pretty good.
Wait, you're a college football guy, do they?
They're more tight end oriented this. You might get a tight end out of them this year. A couple of good tight ends, couple of good backs.
Good work.
Sure, maybe bring in Rocco Becht as your backup quarterback, son of former NFL tight end Anthony Becht. I mean, you know, a little more tight end base this year. Okay. So maybe they go that route this year.
But that's probably what you'd want anyways, because you got the receivers now.
You got right? a million receivers, plus, and you're not letting Nico Collins go anywhere. It's Nico Collins and a bunch of guys from Iowa State, but that's working. Kind of like though that you got more involvement from the 2 rookies, especially because they were going to be big factors in this offense eventually.
I think the Niners overall struggled on both trenches, both in the offensive and the defensive line, but specifically Trent Williams in the run blocking. He had an elite 90.1 run blocking grade in this one, thanks to a 42.9 impact run blocking percentage, which for anybody who's watching and they haven't heard us talk about this before, an impact run blocking play is when you get a positive grade on a play. So again, just very quickly, the way that the grade distribution works here at PFF is we watch every single play of a player, and there is a scale of which you can deem what they did good, neutral, good, or bad on a scale that goes from -2 to 2 in half-point increments. So if a 0 is a neutral play, you doing your job, you being fine, you doing what is asked of you, not going above and beyond, not, terribly ruining the play, like whatever it is, like you get a 0 for that. If you have a play where you go, wow, okay, like that was for example, we'll talk about this in a second with Denver's offensive line. If you have an assignment where you go, all right, well, let's say I'm the center, okay, and we're running outside zone, and I got a defensive tackle. Let's say that we're running outside zone to my left, okay, and I got a defensive tackle that is in a 2-eye or a 1 technique on my left shoulder. Well, that means that if that's my assignment, I have to reach block that player. So that is a very difficult block to ask me to make. And if I'm able to not only get to the point where I can hit my landmark before the defensive tackle gets there, I can stand him up and not give up any ground, that would be like a positive play right there. So that would be an example of like, yeah, technically you did your job because that was the guy that you were blocking, that you were supposed to block, but we recognize the fact that that was a difficult block for you to make. So all of that to say, an impact run blocking play is when you gain a positive result. So positive 0.5, positive 1, positive 1.5, positive 2, whatever that is. Trent Williams gained a positive play on 42.9% of his run blocking snaps. That is crazy high. What's Chris Lindstrom average? Chris Lindstrom's one of the highest in the NFL, and he averages like 30%.
If you're getting above for the season, if you're getting above 20%, you're having a really good year. And the best guys are in the mid to high 20s. If you're hitting 30, like you said, Chris Lindstrom in one of his crazy years would be probably around
in the 30s. So for you to get a 40, now obviously it's a one-game sample size, but still, that is a very high percentage. You're doing an unbelievable job. And almost as impressive, Dalton, 0, count it, 0% defeated run blocking percentage, which is when you gain a negative run blocking play. So not only did he have a high impact day when it came to gaining positive plays, he didn't screw it up. Trent Williams, still doing it, folks.
That's why he's
still one of the best.
That's why he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Should be.
Yep. Anything else on this one?
Nope.
All right. What's the next game? Oh, Dolphins, Falcons. Somebody at the very top of the show. Hope they're still watching. Because when we were given our intro, they were like, blah, 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 just get the Dolphins, Falcons. Here we are. We're Dolphins, Falcons. Miami wins this game 34-10. Not nearly as competitive, even with all the injuries, I think, than a lot of people believed that it was going to be. Miami's top 5 graded players that we had in this one as the victors here in this game. Safety, Dante Trader Jr. at the top of the list with an 83.7. Linebacker, Terrell Dodson with an 83.0. Wide receiver, Jalen Waddle with an 81.3. Got in the end zone in this game. Center, Aaron Brewer with a 76.3. Edge rusher, Jalen Phillips, a 75.2. And then Tua Tagovailoa, an 82.6. On Atlanta's side, cornerback D. Alford was their top graded player with a 90.3. Linebacker Caden Ellis with a 76.8. Offensive guard Matthew Bergeron, a 75.8. Offensive guard Chris Lindstrom with a 75.4. And the defensive tackle Sam Roberts, a 75.3. Kirk Cousins in this game starting for Michael Penix Jr. Kirk Cousins got a 66.2. Sad to tell the story, Dalton.
I mean, straight up, you figured coming into this week that one of the biggest mismatches would be Atlanta and their great offensive line and Bijan Robinson being able to run the football on the Dolphins. And that was our biggest reasoning, really, for picking the Falcons to win this game. The Dolphins' run defense stepped up, 72.6 run defense grade, 17 carries, 45 yards for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
Not great. No missed tackles, not a single missed tackle in run defense for the Dolphins, and only one explosive run allowed, and that was Nate Carter on the second to last play of the game when the game was basically already over. The Dolphins had the ball for 38 minutes in this game. It just came down to, and to me, watching this, not only were they physically better than they'd been in most, if not all, of the games they've played up front this year, but there was without Michael Penix and without Drake London, there was a serious lack of respect for what the Falcons were running out there. And it looked a lot like all of the Kirk Cousins starts last year, where it was, yeah, we're going to line up 8 in the box and we're going to be press man and we are going to dare you to throw it over our heads. And you're just not going to do it. So Cousins, look, a 66 grade. It's okay. It's not terrible for a guy now who's considered a backup, but also there was just no respect for the Falcons to be able to do anything vertically with Cousins in instead of Penix, and the difference from in arm strength is pretty stark. Because even with Penix kind of struggling at times this year, just the idea and the threat that Michael Penix could take you 60 yards on any play is a thing. Kirk Cousins is just not doing that anymore, and he didn't have Drake London. So the Dolphins on early downs especially just stacking the box. I mean, you're seeing 5-3 fronts, single high, press man coverage. They just, when the Miami Dolphins and their front seven, the way they've played this year, are not afraid of you, you've got an issue. They need Penix and London back in the worst way right now because of just the way that everything was structured. I would expect if Cousins were to play again, it would look a lot like this for an opposing defense again.
Yeah, it's just Kirk at this point in his career, and even when Kirk was playing well, like with the Vikings, his highest graded years, and I'll even say like some of the Washington years as well, he was very much a high IQ anticipation type of a thrower. He never had the best arm in the league, right? He was always going to be somebody who was sort of around average when it came to overall arm talent and velocity and things like that. But now that he is a little bit older, I think this game was a big time microscope on the fact that his arm is just not really starting caliber level. And there were moments in this game where they were able to move the ball down the field because he was anticipating things super well. But you could tell that when he was in trouble and when he needed to really step into passes and put some extra juice on it, the accuracy really started to fall away from him. And that's when things really started to unravel. And so unless it's working perfect, it's kind of funny that both Kirk Cousins and Tua Tagovailoa were in this game because both of these quarterbacks play the game very similarly. This was some of the fastest time to throw that you're going to see of any quarterbacks going up against each other. Both of these quarterbacks had a time to throw average below 2.5. Cousins was a 2.48. I can't remember what Tua's was, but I know it was less than 2.5. It's just that's sort of how both of these teams play offense. And for the Falcons, they didn't really have the weapons to make up for it. They certainly didn't have the run game that they wanted to lean on, and it just was not enough for them. Now, specifically, a trend that I just do not love from this Falcons team, and you talked about this earlier in the year, how you noticed, you were able to pick up on when the Falcons were running versus when they were passing, just because of what type of backfield set they were in. What was it? If they were under center, they were running the football.
Same for the most part with the pistol. Yeah.
And the same with the pistol. And if they were in shotgun,
93% pass or
they
something.
Were passing.
Yeah.
There's sort of more predictability in this game specifically. 3.1% play action percentage in this game of their offensive snaps. 3.1%. Now, they're using motion a lot. They're a team that uses motion in they're in the top 10 in the NFL, like total passing plays where they use motion, but they are dead last in the NFL, 15.3% with play action. So outside of pre-snap motion, the Falcons aren't really doing anything to get defenses off of their trail or even just put a little bit of hesitation in there. You talked about the formation set and how that's kind of giving it away. If there's no play action, then there's no sort of hesitation against the run. And you got Bijan Robinson.
Well, and the problem is that the tells are even worse when you already have a defense with a quarterback in Kirk Cousins that they just don't respect.
Well,
it gets even. It's been a problem all year. But
I'm talking about like even as a larger sample size for the season. Like we talked about this when we talked about the Falcons previously. You have Bijan Robinson. You should be running play action. Now I'm not going to say every play, but
a good amount.
You should be top 10 in the NFL at play action percentage when you have a player like that in the backfield, who is a threat at all times the defense has to account for, whether they're running the ball well or not. And I think that that's becoming an issue of this Falcons team is the predictability that they've had on the offensive side of the football. And this week, it was just multiplied by the fact that the Miami Dolphins did not respect Kirk Cousins and what he was able to do as a passer. I love the Dolphins' run defense in this game, specifically over the last couple of weeks. Zach Seiler, Jalen Phillips, Jordan Phillips, Bradley Chubb, and even Kenneth Grant. All of those guys are grading better over the last couple of weeks in run defense where that was the most puzzling and frustrating part of the early evaluation for this team. Is we looked at this defensive line and we were like, how are you bad? How are you bad against the run? Like, there's no way you should be as bad against the run as they were through the first 3-4 weeks of the season. And I think over the last 3 weeks, they've sort of gotten much more into the look of what we thought the Dolphins' defense was going to be, especially from a run-stopping standpoint. So they're getting a lot better, and I think the rookies specifically, and Grant and Phillips, are getting a lot better as well. Falcons' injuries was a big disappointing part for me. Obviously, not having Michael Penix in this junior, or not having Michael Penix Jr. in this game, not having Drake London in this game proved to be detrimental for them as well. So it just injuries from the Falcons, I think, really kept them from competing in this game the way they wanted to.
And a third one, Miami ran the football very well. Not having Divine Diablo at linebacker has been a problem for them. J.D. Bertrand trying to step in and play well, but I believe he was the Falcons' lowest graded defensive player in this game. They need Diablo back. And quick side thing, real quick, because we were talking about impact run blocking percentage before. Guess the three leaders: offensive tackle, guard, and center. Who are the three leaders right now? Two of them.
Wait, okay.
Tackle and guard are going to be kind of obvious.
Set it up again. What are we talking about?
Who are the leaders in individuals, impact run block percentage at tackle, at guard, at center? Tackle and guard are pretty obvious when you really think about
them. Guard's Quentin Nelson.
Yep. 26% Quentin Nelson.
Is tackle Trent Williams?
No. He's up there, but he's not first. Once you think of it, or one of us says it, you're going to be like, oh, yeah.
It's not going to be Tristan Wirfs.
Nope.
Who would it be?
Oh, you're going to hate yourself if you don't get the tackle one. This is going to be fun.
Just because this is bad podcasting, I don't want to think about it for too long, but who is it?
Penei Sewell.
Oh, obviously.
And
I'm mad at myself.
Center is a little trickier because it's not the obvious one you think it is.
Is it Bordolini?
No, that's a good guess, actually.
Yeah, because he's
been really good.
Nice.
The obvious one I would think of was Creed Humphrey, but he's second.
I was going to guess Linderbaum and then Humphrey would have been the next two.
First is actually a guy in this game we just talked about, Aaron Brewer, just ahead of Creed.
Really?
Just ahead of Creed Humphrey.
Wow.
Maybe the smallest center in the NFL.
Okay.
The smallest starting center in the NFL. He's got the highest, just ahead of about a half a point ahead of Creed Humphrey.
Nice.
Fun stuff. So Sewell and Nelson for sure. When you get an idea of those guys dominating on the ground, that's what you're talking about. Is Nelson at about 26%, Sewell at about, I think it was 23.5%. That's when you're getting into those elite marks up in there.
That's a good shout out. It's a very good shout out there. Anything else on this game before we move on?
All good.
All right, folks. I'm going to ask people in the chat this, and I want to see some answers. What's your favorite touchdown of all time? I asked Dalton this last week. Now I'm asking the chat. I'm asking everybody who's in the chat right now. What is your favorite touchdown of all time? Donald was in the chat last week. Said the Beastquake one was his favorite. Oh, you got a new one?
Well, of course.
Is it the Breece Hall pass to?
It's Breece Hall to Mason. It's Breece Hall to Mason Taylor. Just for the guys in the back.
Our producer are going to cut our mics off for that. What's your favorite touchdown of all time? We want to hear it. Us, on this side of things, of course, it's the next one, right? Because with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, every single touchdown could bring you closer to cashing in. DraftKings Sportsbook delivers the unmatched intensity of the NFL right to your fingertips. From first touchdown scores to anytime TD props, the thrill of live in-game betting. Every snap is loaded with opportunity. And here's the best part. New customers, they bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets instantly. We're using DraftKings odds all year. We're talking about some of the odds to win the division that are getting updated throughout the week. Obviously, we're using DraftKings odds for that when we're looking at that good stuff. Your team hitting pay dirt, that pays you out to you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the promo code PFF. That's promo code PFF for new customers to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Partnership with DraftKings. Crown is yours. If you got a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or just text HOPE-NY 467-369. And in Connecticut, help is available for problems with gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino Resort, Kansas. Pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expires in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, visit dkng.co/audio, and this is a limited time offer. Oh, Brian shouting out the Rondé Barber interception in the NFC Championship.
Oh, see, now he's just pandering to you. That's all he's doing.
Great answer, Brian.
Just pandering.
Great answer. Shut down the vet, baby.
You good?
Oh, but then Peter said the Philly special. So Eagles fans are back.
Oh, okay.
They're back in on it.
Yeah, they've had more recent ones for sure. They've had a lot of recent
Ross said Andrew Luck leaping over the offensive line in the playoffs against the Chiefs.
That one rocked. After the fumble and all of that, I forget who the back was, maybe Donald Brown, or I forget who it was that fumbled, but after the fumble, what a game. That's an all-time memorable game, just that whole comeback that Luck put together. Man. Andrew Luck, GM, Stanford football.
Yeah.
Not playing too bad lately, actually. Got a win over Florida State last week.
Yeah, and they were up early against Miami, and then they gave up 42 unanswered.
Head coach Frank Reich.
Is he the head coach?
Yeah, he was named the interim for the entire season, so I don't know if he's gonna get the tag off of him or if they're gonna fight. But Frank Reich is it's Andrew Luck and Frank Reich back together at Stanford.
He's gonna stay if he wants the gig. He's gonna stay. I think he'll give it to him. Make it happen. Yeah, Cowboys and the Broncos. Okay, we're going to talk about a stat that told the story. We're going to give the top fives, but we're also going to break down what was the highest graded play that we have so far this season, which was the R.J. Harvey touchdown. So we'll break that down and sort of explain the grade there in a second. But before we get to that, top 5 graded players that we had in this game. Denver winning big 44-24. On Denver side of things, offensive guard Quinn Miners, the top man on this list with a 92.2. Big reason why is that run blocking play that we'll talk about here in a second. Linebacker Alex Singleton with an 88.6. Running back J.K. Dobbins, an 83.8. Wide receiver Troy Franklin, a 76.9. Tight end Evan Ingram, a 76.7. And the Bo Nix in this game, an 87.2. On Dallas' side of things, offensive guard Tyler Booker with an 83.1. Edge rusher Donovan Ezeraku, a 79.8. Edge rusher Jadeveon Clowney, a 77.5. Tight end Luke Schoonmaker with a 76.7. Offensive guard Tyler Smith with a 75.8. Dak Prescott in this game, we wondered if he would struggle. It's a tough defense he was going up against, and he did. This was a tough outing for Dak Prescott, who has had a fantastic year, which I think is just more kudos to Denver than anything else and how he played. Prescott getting a 51.6 overall grade in this one. Dalton, stats that told the story.
Yeah, I mean, there's just we're at this point with the Cowboys like we've been at the last year and a half with the Bengals, where it's just there's just days where their defense doesn't give them a chance. The Broncos 7.5 yards per play, 0.339 EPA per play for an entire game. That's one of the best marks of the entire season. 81.5 offensive grade as a team. To be honest with you, I didn't even go back and watch a whole lot of the Cowboys offense in this game a bit, until probably midway through the third quarter, because I was just like, they just don't get stops. And if Dak Prescott doesn't play perfect football, what are they going to do? I mean, it's just at that point they just don't get any. This is the worst defense in football, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know the Raiders aren't great. There's a couple others that aren't great, but this team, you can't walk out there and they got an interception on the third play of the game of Bo Nix. That was basically Bo's only bad throw of the day. I've got Bo Nix down as my most impressive because I do like that Sean Payton came out and just let him attack right from the beginning of the game instead of waiting 3 whole quarters for it and getting desperate, like they have in these comeback victories lately. But 85 passing grade would have been even higher than that if not for the one interception that he missed third play of the game. 10+ yard throws, 7 of 13. 3 touchdowns, 3 big-time throws, 91 passing grade on those. This was just teams just walk into these games against Dallas's defense, and they essentially just take their liberties, man. We saw Caleb Williams do it. We saw Jordan Love do it. We saw Russell Wilson do it. I mean, this is just the way it goes with this Dallas defense. And, I mean, you look at just the sheer amount of points that Dallas has to score to stay in and win these games, 40-37, tie in 40-40 with the Packers. I mean, if their offense doesn't play perfect football, they're going to lose. And honestly, there's times they may lose anyway because this right now is the worst defense in football. Yep. I think in Denver showed why again.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Cowboys secondary was the stat that told the story here for me. You mentioned the 10-yard throws or more that Knicks had in this game. 32.8 coverage grade from their secondary. That's the Dallas Cowboys. So corners and safeties, Trikwedge Bridges struggled. Both of the starting safeties really struggled. Kyrie Elam and Deron Bland were okay in this game, but it just, as a unit, like you're never going to win if you're giving up this many points and when you're giving up that many explosives in the passing game. And at this point in time, if you're the Broncos, the only thing that it's a week-to-week league, as they say, but like what you're really worried about from Bo Nix isn't the fact that he can do things for you. What you're really worried about with him is that one interception that happened early in the game. Like, we got to get those out of your system. And I don't know if those will totally be out of Bo Nix's system. I'm just not sure with the mindset that he has this season with being a little bit more of a gunslinger. But like that throw, like that's.
It was a miss. I'll say this much: it wasn't a bad read or anything. Like they missed, and sometimes guys miss throws. But I do like at the very least that, especially against this team, that Sean Payton just said, "Hey, wipe it. We're going again. We're killing this team because we can't."
Right? That's what we've talked about all year.
Right.
Like that's what I think the mindset has been all year. But that throw. You're right. It wasn't that bad of a read, but like, why did he miss that throw? He missed that throw because he weirdly sidearmed it.
Yeah.
Because he just does that.
In games against Kansas City.
Yeah, you can't do
secondary,
that.
You're not going to be able to do that. You can get away with it in this one, and
right.
I like that.
Right.
I do like that in this game. Peyton just said, "Hey, keep letting it rip," because they're not stopping it. But you're right. In the bigger games against the Kansas Cities and these other big games that they have, or Indianapolis when he was taking his chances and they lost that game. It's got to be. There's occasionally some of that in there, and it's not exclusive to him. We've talked about that with Jordan Love and Trevor Lawrence and some other guys too. But at least in this game, you could get away with it because it's the Cowboys defense. And again, I think this is another one where I've talked about this before. Not as consistently off as Caleb Williams, but sometimes the footwork can be a little funky from Bo also, which can lead to misses like that.
Joe in the chat saying, let's be real, y'all thought the Cowboys were going to win. Clearly he didn't watch the Wednesday show because I had the Broncos winning. We both had it close. We both had this game close.
Oh, no, I took Dallas. I thought Dallas was going to ride that momentum and just go, but look, this defense, Dak Prescott's the reason they can make the playoffs, and their defense is a reason that they may not.
Wait, Bash in the chat saying it was a no-look pass. Was it actually a no-look pass, the Knicks thing?
If it was,
I didn't think it was a no-look pass.
I can check that part again, but if it was, don't do that again.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, that would kind of explain why, because it was a weird miss, anyways. I remember watching that play, and I was like, how did that happen? I didn't think it was a no-look pass from him. It didn't feel like it was.
I don't know what. No,
He's watching the show. He's watching the play live on the show.
I'm watching it right. I'm looking at his eyes, and I don't know where he would have been looking to.
No, maybe they might have been talking about something else. I don't know. I'm just reading the chat. But yeah, that obviously, like we've said, like you can't really do that stuff against the Kansas Cities, and that's what I think the Broncos have the potential to be, is playing the Kansas City Chiefs in a big game, whether it's for the division or in the playoffs or whatever it is, and like that's the stuff that I think we got to flush out.
And despite a lot of the things we've said about their offense, because there's been weeks where it doesn't look great, they are 6-2.
Oh, for sure.
They're in a pretty good spot.
They are a very good team. I am nitpicking a team that I predicted would win the division.
That's true too.
I said that the Broncos were going to win this division, and so I am judging them against what I think the team has the potential to be. So I'm always going to sound like I'm nitpicking a little bit because I had a lot of faith in this team moving into the season. Anyways, let's explain the grade here for what is the highest graded play that we have so far in the 2025 NFL season, and that was the R.J. Harvey 40-yard touchdown here. Now, I want to lean on you for a good amount of this analysis because, like we said earlier in the show, you came up through the data collection side of things in this company, so you obviously have a great eye for what receives a positive grade here and there. But this play, if you watched it live, you saw the Broncos offensive line and all their blockers just absolutely kicking ass on this play. And R.J. Harvey, he has to make a read once he gets to, I believe you would classify it as the second level, maybe it's the third level when he gets up to sort of like where the safeties are. He has to make a read and make a cut, but outside of that, man, he had a pretty wide open rushing lane to be able to get into the end zone, and it was just an unbelievable play. And the reason why it was the highest graded play that we have so far this season is because every single offensive lineman and tight end who was on the field in this play, who was run blocking, gained a positive play here. And I guess that also includes Pat Bryant, who did a really good job of washing out, I believe it was with the outside linebacker or the defensive end, on that play initially for them to, he basically takes them out of the play by allowing them to sort of overrun where R.J. Harvey is going to go for this play. So let's talk about some of the I guess the details of this play. Let's talk about the grading of this play, and let's sort of break down how it became one of the highest graded plays.
So you mentioned it without the video or me doing the slideshow on it like we bring up on Thursdays with certain subjects. What you have here, it's the classic pin pole concept. Kyle Shanahan loves this. Sean Payton using it a little bit here in his offense. You mentioned Pat Bryant getting down on the defensive end. That's the pin, as you're trying to pin him inside so you can get that toss sweep going outside of it. Garrett Bowles then pulls out behind him, right, and gets out to the corner. He gets the positive grade for not just sealing off the corner, but shoving him 6 yards out towards the sideline and creating that huge lane to the outside. Then you look at everybody else on the backside of this, from the right guard all the way back to the tight end on the right. They're basically sealing front side like you described before, on like they would an outside zone. All you're trying to do is get to your inside gap and seal somebody off. So the left guard, Calvin Throckmorton, he gets up to the linebacker. The center gets to the 2-eye, the defensive tackle who's on the inside shoulder of the left guard. He seals him off and boxes him out. The right tackle does something similar on the backside of the play. The tight end gets up to a linebacker. So all everybody on the backside is trying to do is step to their inside gap. If somebody's in the inside gap, or head up or inside shoulder of the next lineman, just seal them away from the play. Because what those backside the cutoffs do is either A, they open that initial lane even wider on that side, or B, you allow those cutback lanes, and Harvey's got options on that front side. The craziest one here, who got the highest grade, is Quinn Miners, the right guard. He was the highest graded player in this game. He gets up on a linebacker, so there's nobody in his inside gap on that side of the center. He gets up to the linebacker, absolute pancake, just mauls him, to the point where, Trev, I always have the line, good offensive lines blocking the first level, great offensive lines blocking the second level. Quinn Miners is trying to set a new status here because he's up on the third level. He pancakes a linebacker, and then he gets up and pancakes the deep free safety to open that final lane so R.J. Harvey can be completely untouched.
Then he even looks for work after that. And he gets up and he tries to go for that third pancake.
Well, it's why he makes the money. He turns around and hits somebody on the backside here. It's why he's one of the best players and one of the highest paid guards in football, because he can do things like that. But these are the moments you look at when we talk about looking at the entire thing. So I'm not even sure that R.J. Harvey on the scale even got, I have to look at it, even got a +1 here. Because
I don't know if he did.
He was basically at that point, he could walk to the end zone. But when you talk about knowing the assignments and what everybody's supposed to do on a play like this, I've done breakdowns like last week or 2 weeks ago. I did the Giants breakdown and some of the things that they were doing in their run game. Similar stuff here with Denver, but you don't see many plays, because usually the goal is you get a couple of positive grades to open things up. And there's been studies done on like how many plays in the run game can you get where just nobody gets a negative, right? Kind of you're as good as your weakest link thing here, which is fine. If you got like 2 or 3 positive grades and the other 3 guys were neutral, you probably got a pretty darn good play on your hands.
Right.
This case where all 6 guys up front all got positive grades, and Quinn Miners, I think when you have 2 separate blocks, he actually gets 2 separate positive grades that stack up, which is crazy. You talking about now, okay, that's how guys start walking in from 40 yards out, and that's why we talk about run blocking grades and offensive line play, and impact run block percentage. And why the Denver Broncos offensive line in particular is a top 3 to 5, if not number 1 unit, is plays like that. So it's really fun to just break down these things. And these are things we get to break down, live as the game's going. And then when we get the all-22 and you see the end zone shot of a play like this, you have a lot of fun with it, because you're like, man, just everybody's doing their job. And I'll tell you right now, this all-22 of this play for a pin pole, that's a coach's clinic right there. People are going to save that in the folder.
It is. You mentioned the left guard being Calvin Throckmorton. That was actually Alex Podcheski. So
did Throckmorton get hurt too now?
I don't know if he got hurt, but it was Podcheski in this game, and I think he played most of this game at left guard, and he played well. But I just want to shout him out because look,
good call, because I know
he takes Kenneth Murray for a ride.
Ever since Ben,
so I can't take that away from him.
Ben Powers got hurt, I know it's been a rotation with those guys too there.
He had a fantastic block on this play. But so here's a question for you, and I think this is a good one because you did a great job explaining exactly what everybody's doing on that play to gain a positive play. First and foremost, I guess I just want to say this: Eric Eager used to work at PFF. Now he works for the Carolina Panthers, actually in their analytics and their front office department. He wrote an article a while ago, which I believe you guys can still see on the website, and he talked about the value of a perfectly blocked play. And he talked about how when you have a perfectly blocked play, so when you have a play where everyone who is run blocking gains a positive difference-making result or grade on a play, the EPA per play of those plays is the best play in football. Like what we just witnessed the Denver Broncos do against the Dallas Cowboys, this is the best play in the game of football when it all works out like this. You're mitigating your risk. All you're doing is handing the ball off. And like you said, not many plays where you can walk into the end zone from 40 yards out. You can with this type of a play. So I just want to explain that sort of as I think a lot of people look at us, and sometimes PFF has been like, oh, like they hate running backs, they hate running the ball. Like they're always, leaning into EPA per play, which is so leaned on passing. Obviously, there's, nuance, and we have that conversation about what's more valuable and what's not, especially situationally. But just to be very clear, a perfectly blocked play like the one that we just watched against the Dallas Cowboys from the Denver Broncos, that's the best play in the game of football. I did want to ask you this question because I saw somebody ask this before. I think it was somebody on Twitter who asked this. So Quinn Miners gets a 1.5 out of 2. Remember the grade scale. It starts at 0 for a neutral play, and then it goes up or down in 0.5 half increments all the way up to 2 or -2. Quinn Miners on this play, you mentioned 2 pancakes and even gets up after the second pancake and he's kind of looking for work. He gets a 1.5 on this play. There are people on Twitter who are like, holy cow, what's he got to do to be able to get a 2? And I think that's a good thing to just sort of like bring up and talk about, because we really do give out very, very few 2s or -2s.
The most common ones, not even most common, because there's only maybe like 40 of them ever, would be like just insane throws from, like, I think about, remember Eli Manning's throw to Mario Manningham?
Yes.
And that, like, that's one. -2s are more common because a good amount of pick sixes get in that category.
Sure.
Or there's just certain plays, like if I remember a Deebo Samuel play a couple years back where he took his screen. He took a tunnel screen and broke like 6 tackles.
Yeah.
And scored like a 70-yard. Like it would take like plays. Think about plays that you just remember forever, no matter what. Like you would be getting up in that category.
And to be honest, like the Quinn Miners, we gave it a 1.5. We really do try to reserve those 2s for like some of what you said, like the most memorable plays that you've ever seen in your life.
So here's what I have actually. The composite, because remember I told you can get a grade. If you block 2 guys that well, you can get a grade for both. Mm-hmm. He got a 1.5 for the first one, and then another 0.5 for the one on the free safety. So he actually, when you add it up, he did get a +2 on this play. I had to go and look at it. Because,
so he did.
And it happened in 2 separate. I don't know if we've ever done one block
that's been a 2.
That's been a 2.
Sure.
But to get the 2 together and get there, I mean, you're talking about getting two big blocks on guys downfield, especially the first one. I mean, it just wasn't fair at that point because Quinn Miners coming full speed at you. That's rough. But if you take the 2 put together, he actually did on this play. It's just ridiculous when you get 2 blocks like that in the same play.
So it's one of those things where Quinn Miners gets it. Technically, it's in the books as a 1.5, but it's really like 2 1.5s that he got on this play, or is it a 2? Did it get elevated up to a 2?
It might put it, because it's the same play. It might put. I got to look at it, but it might put it together.
All that to say, there were only 6 blocks all of last year that got a 1.5 or higher. Quinn Miners actually did have one of them, and this is a player who, what I love so much about Quinn Miners is you could tell he gets that first pancake on Shamar James. And it only he doesn't get the pancake and then like stands over him. He gets the pancake and it's if he took like a Mario mushroom and he's just like, okay, like where's the next one? Like what? Somebody give me something. I'm about to make this the best play of all time. And then he gets the second pancake, and then what does he do immediately after that? He pops up and he tries to. I can't even remember who he gives a pop to at the end, but he almost gets 3 pancakes in a single block.
Who's 42? Clowney? Is that right?
That sounds right.
He like turns around and looks.
Clowney is Clowney's a dense dude. Clowney's a strapping young lad. So that makes sense that he wasn't able to just bowl over Jadeveon Clowney, even feeling as juiced up as he was there. So there we go. Okay, that's our explain the grade play that we have for the Broncos offensive line, which was one of the more fun plays that we had the ability to grade and go over. We got one more explain the grade that we're gonna talk about Justin Herbert's grade, because I know a lot of people were talking about that from Thursday Night Football. But before we get to that, we got the Buccaneers, the Saints. Bucs win this game 23-3. Top 5 graded players that we had for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers: edge rusher Anthony Nelson at the top of the list for him with a 92.3, cornerback Jamel Dean a 90.6, cornerback Zion McCollum an 82.6, cornerback Jacob Parrish a 76.1, safety Tyke Smith a 72.1. Baker Mayfield in this game, a 63.5. On the Saints side of things, edge rusher Chase Young with an 86.8. Safety Justin Reed, an 82.1. Cornerback Kool-Aid McKinstry, a 72.7. Linebacker Demario Davis, a 72.2. And then offensive tackle Talize Fuanga, a 71.4. Spencer Rattler started this game, got a 35.1 passing grade. And then Tyler Shuck ended the game. I think Shuck's passing grade was
about a 70 somewhere.
I was going to say, I thought it was like low 60s. Maybe it cracked that 70 mark there, but wasn't asked to do a lot sort of at the end of the game when the script was what it was. But Seth told the story here, Dalton.
Yeah, that's going to be the story coming out of this is that Spencer Rattler got benched, and now we've got the quarterback controversy with the Saints. But I watching this game from the jump and Rattler trying to work through this, I don't really know what the idea was on offense. It was only 9 designed runs from the Saints this entire game and only 4 in the first half. This game, the Saints defense actually played very well in this game, and they got kind of hurt by turnovers and things of that nature, but they only called 4 run plays in the first half.
Yeah.
And they're just asking Rattler to drop back every play, and
they don't really believe in Kamara. Right?
I don't care who you believe in. If you just choose not to run the
No,
football, this is what it's going to look like.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but like I don't think Kendra Miller wasn't in this game.
No, he's hurt.
And they don't believe in Alvin Kamara to give them the juice that they want to.
Well, then you're asking one or both of these guys in this case to drop back 63 times.
And it's not a recipe.
Rattler got benched, and yes, he did not play well, and he didn't play well last week either. And obviously, maybe they're just trying to throw a curveball and go, let's see what Tyler can do. But also, it kind of feels like he was set up to fail on this one. Mm-hmm. That's just, I mean, you have a game that was 7-3 at halftime, so a game that was certainly close by half, and even when it was 14-3 coming out of the open in the third quarter, you still have to run the football.
Yeah,
I mean
you do.
I mean, and if you don't believe in your starting tailback, A, why'd you sign him to an extension? But that's another story. And B, you don't have anybody. I mean, Taysom Hill, he had maybe 2 carries or whatever it was in this game. But I mean, I just feel like here Rattler got benched, and he didn't play well last week or this week, but I also don't feel like that's all asking a quarterback to just drop back every play against a good team. That's setting him up to fail to me.
I guess it's just told the story here for me is Chase McLaughlin.
It's pretty good.
3 field goals of more than 50 yards.
Yeah, feels good to go against him in fantasy. That's great. Put up a cool 17 on that. That's good. Appreciate that, Chase.
But I mean, it was a close game where Antoine Winfield Jr. was standing in the end zone 3 separate times with the ball in his hand, and they called it back all 3 times. And you could argue that all 3 of those could have absolutely stood as touchdowns for him. And so a lot of the Bucs' big plays just kind of got called back, and they had to settle for field goals. But Chase made them, and I think that in a close game, obviously it didn't end the game close, but you take 9 points off the board, and it's something that's within striking distance the whole time. The quarterback play from the Saints and the offense from the Saints just wasn't good enough for them to win this game. But I guess Chase McLaughlin, I kind of got to pick as sort of my stat that told the story here with him continuing to make field goals, even when the Bucs offense was not playing its best in this game. The most impressive for me was Anthony Nelson, that 92.3 overall grade, a 90.1 pass rushing grade. He had 2 sacks in this one, had a forced fumble, had the pick 6. I mean, he was unbelievable in this game. They don't win this game without him. He was, without a doubt, the highest impact player. And then the most disappointing for me was just the Bucs offensive line. This was a game where we've suspected that the Bucs offensive line could struggle in the past, and they've generally been okay versus those expectations. But in this game, they really struggled, and it didn't show up in the win-loss column because they still ended up winning the game. But Ben Bredesen, a 19.2 pass blocking grade, Dan Feeney, a 31.2 pass blocking grade, 71.2 defeated run blocking percentage in the second half of this game. They could not run the football, and a big reason why was because of their offensive line. You looked at those goal line stands that they had, where the first goal line stand they had, they got a penalty on the first play, but they still ran the ball, and they still didn't score on that play. They had 5 plays from the 1-yard line where they ran the football, and they did not score. That's an indictment on your offensive line.
Feels good, too, in those spots to have Rachaad White on my fantasy team. That feels great. Feels good.
You just weren't a fan of this game.
No.
In any way, shape, or form.
Kind of wasn't. Really kind of hurt. And then Sean Tucker, finally, when they scored on the second 4th down, then it was Sean Tucker vulturing it. Feels good.
1 yard before contact in the second half for this Bucs rushing attack. So this was a massive struggle of a game from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think they are lucky. Now, lucky's sort of a loaded word because the defense played excellent.
Well, I thought both defenses played excellent.
Right.
Really,
the Bucs were
Saints
just able to do a little bit more.
The Saints' defense
side.
was not bad by any means in this game. They threw the ball every play, and there ended up being 4 turnovers.
Yeah.
Bucs corners got plenty of opportunities, though. They played well. Jamel Dean forcing a fumble, 4 stops, 90 coverage grade. Zion McCollum, 84.7, 4 forced incompletions. You'll take that any day of the week. I mean, you get 63 opportunities to go out there and make a name for yourself. You're going to probably do something right on at least a few of them, right? I would think.
Yeah, and Jacob Parrish is playing.
Jacob Parrish has been outstanding all year.
Incredibly well.
Winfield, like you mentioned, is Bucs secondary. To their credit, again, they knew the Saints were throwing every play, but to their credit, they executed well. It was a really good day for the Bucs secondary. But no, offensively, I mean, we've seen it's the injuries. It's working through it. It's been the theme of their season. And the Saints now are probably going to hear all week about whether it's going to be Rattler or Shuck going into this week.
Yeah, and I think that we're probably at the point where the Saints currently have the number 1 pick because they win the strength of schedule tiebreaker with the Jets right now for the number 1 pick in the 2026 NFL draft. You have to have some sort of idea of who Tyler Shuck is at this point. And I feel bad for Spencer Rattler because I think at times throughout the season he has played well, but we're now in the situation where I don't know if they're going to go to Shuck this upcoming week, but I think it's going to come soon where I just don't think the rest of this team is good enough to be able to win football games consistently. And at that point, through the second half of the season, when's the Saints bye week, actually? I do not know. Hold on, let me pull this up. Let's see.
I do know the funky situation.
It's 11, so they are at the Los Angeles Rams next week, and then they are at the Carolina Panthers the following week.
The weird situation a little further down in that schedule, they play the Jets and Titans at some point back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, so you said at some point there?
Is it December or something? I forget.
It is week 16 and 17. Those are 2 games that could absolutely determine who has the number 1 pick in the NFL draft.
I'm calling out ties in both of them when we get to the preview shows. I'm going to do it. Those are the 2 games I'm going to call out ties. It seems fitting.
I hate you. Tennessee Titans at the Indianapolis Colts. The game went exactly how every single person expected it to go.
Yep.
Colts win this game 38-14. Top 5 graded players that we have for the Indianapolis Colts. Running back Jonathan Taylor, a 91.1 at the very top of the list. Wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr., a 90.9. Cornerback Chris Lamons with a 87.4. Center Tanner Bordolini, an 83.4. Safety Nick Cross, a 79.7. Daniel Jones in this game, a 74.9. On Tennessee's side of things, their offensive lineman Peter Skoronski, a 90.6. Wide receiver Shimmer Adike with a 76.1. Defensive tackle Tavondre Sweat with a 74.6 with no Jeffrey Simmons in this game. Safety Amani Hooker, a 71.4. Tight end Gunnar Helm with a 70.8. And then Cam Ward in this one, a 64.9. Stat that told the story, Dalton.
I feel like Daniel Jones gets like the same grade every week.
Yeah.
Just every single.
Yeah, and they score 38.
He's just so darn
And they
consistent.
score 38 every single week.
I mean, here, let's dig into that even. Let's go EPA per play just because these are fun stats to mess around with a little bit. 0.357 EPA per play this week in this game. 6th best by any team in any game this season. They've also got the best game, according to EPA per player, say the most efficient game. Last week against the Chargers was number 1. Mm-hmm. Week 5 against the Raiders was number 14. And week 3 against the same Tennessee team was number 19. They have 4 of the 20 most efficient offensive games by any team in the league this year. We're only through week 8. No other team is in the top 20 more than twice. I mean, we just say it again with the Colts. They're wagging. First in EPA per play. First in yards per play, first in success rate, first in points scored. It's going to take, with Daniel Jones playing like this and Jonathan Taylor playing like this, it's just going to take a lot to beat this team on any given week. And it's pretty clear at this point, you're going to have to outscore them or you're going to have to find a way to disrupt Jones's rhythm because, Tennessee, unfortunately for them, twice they've shown that they've just stood no chance against them. And I think that's the more jarring part about this is, you know me. Ever since they signed him, I was the Daniel Jones optimist with this. Not to this level, not to the level where they've been clearly the best offense in football through half the season. Just incredible stuff they're doing. They did it again. My most impressive guy, you've got Taylor on the run side. I'll take Michael Pittman. This was kind of the breakout game for him. 8 catches, 95 yards, the touchdown, the one-handed Still don't know how he caught it. Touchdown that
Crazy.
just kind of stuck to his rib cage.
Crazy.
I mean, just Pittman had the big week. Another week it's Tyler Warren. Another week it's Josh Downs and Jonathan Taylor. It's every single week. Him and that offensive line are the engine right now. I mean, but this is as two-dimensional a football team as you could have right now on offense.
Yeah, the Colts offensive line. I mean, that's the stat that told the story. Every single starting offensive lineman had a pass blocking grade above 75 in this game. All 5 of them. It's pretty incredible. 4 pressures allowed. Daniel Jones was hit just once in this game. The reason why I set this game up by saying this went exactly how everybody thought that it was going to is because it went exactly how everybody thought that it was going to, especially with no Jeffrey Simmons in this game. Daniel Jones was not rattled really at all whatsoever. They were not able to defend the run the way that they needed to, and the Colts are an absolute bulldozer right now. Coach of the year, Shane Steichen and Mike Vrabel.
Can I throw an asterisk on this? I still believe if somehow the Niners make the playoffs, it should be Kyle Shanahan. If they don't,
ooh, where is Shanahan? Let me. Oh, he's third. So that's the top. But it's Shane Steichen, Mike Vrabel, Kyle Shanahan with odds.
I would if Kyle Shanahan if they make the playoffs, I would give it to him no matter what.
DraftKings last had.
But if you're asking me to pick one, I'd probably go Steichen for what they're doing. Yeah.
Come on.
But if I'm telling you, that's like I've already declared this 100 times. That's going to be if the Niners make the playoffs, I would vote for Kyle Shanahan with all those injuries.
I absolutely hear you, and I don't think it's a bad.
But if this team wins 14 games with
Daniel
Jones, I know even if the Niners make it, I'm going to get trumped on that one. If the Colts win 14 games, even if the Niners make the playoffs, I know I would get outvoted on that one. But just Kyle Shanahan with all the injuries they're dealing with. But no, Steichen. I mean, we did not think with Daniel Jones as their quarterback they would have clearly the best offense in football through the first half of the season.
They've been unbelievable. Jonathan Taylor in this game, 90.2 rushing grade, 7 missed tackles forced. Now, there are some games where the offensive line is really to credit, right? And Jonathan Taylor might have an incredible day on the stat sheet, but we go, no, he's doing that because it's the offensive line. Look how they're blocking. The O-line blocked well in this game, but Jonathan Taylor also individually had a fantastic game. Specifically in this one, like I mentioned, a 90.2 rushing grade, 7 missed tackles forced. 123 of his yards came after contact. That's not what happens every single week. Sometimes the Colts, they're blocking so well that Jonathan Taylor will have 123 yards before contact, and he really won't have to do much. But on a game where he's doing it after contact, this definitely was a Jonathan Taylor, you went off, sir, type of a game.
And here's the thing, and oftentimes some of the rushing grades can more so correlate to efficiency, like with Tank Bigsby earlier, why he had such a high grade, right? And we've seen times where Taylor has this stat line with 30 carries. He had the stat line with 12 carries.
Right.
12 carries for 153 yards. Right. I mean, that's just, you're ripping off almost 13 a carry. And 7 missed tackles on just 12 carries. That's unreal stuff. That's fantastic. So it is that. The fact that with just 12 carries that he could do all of that is just really speaks to both his talent and the offensive line and just what this offense is doing.
I don't really know what to say about the Titans, really. It's just
they're just not beating the Colts.
They would never win this game.
No.
They would never win this game, unfortunately. And we'll talk about the Titans, obviously, I think, when we really start to talk about teams with the draft focus a little bit more. The last game that we have this week is Thursday Night Football. And sometimes we're a little bit quick at Thursday Night Football. We'll go a little bit more in-depth into this one because there is a specific Explain the Grade that we want to get to with Justin Herbert's passing grade. But top 5 graded players that we had in this game, with the Chargers winning 37-10. Cam Hart, their cornerback, the top of the list for non-Justin Herbert players with a 92.4. Edge rusher Khalil Mack right behind him with a 90.0. Running back Amani Vidal with a 79.7. Safety R.J. Mickens a 75.1. And then wide receiver Ladd McConkey a 74.7. Justin Herbert in this game a 93.6 overall grade. On Minnesota's side of things, Blake Cashman was their top graded player with a 79.8. Wide receiver Justin Jefferson a 78.7. Edge rusher Jonathan Grenard a 77.7. Defensive tackle Jalen Redmond a 75.0. Edge rusher Tyler Beatty with a 70.4. And then Carson Wentz in this game a 35.4. I think that we have the same stat that told the story here, Dalton, because at the end of the day, with Carson Wentz playing the way that he did under pressure, you're just not really going to be able to win many football games.
Well, and Justin Herbert's done a great job of responding to pressure. Both of these quarterbacks with such banged-up offensive lines, and that's what made this, or gave it the potential to be such a weird game, is that so many injuries on the O-line. Christian Darrisaw left this game, I believe, after 8 snaps. Again, the Vikings' offensive line's a mess with injuries. The Chargers' offensive line's a mess with injuries. But here's the difference. Justin Herbert pressured on almost 65% of his dropbacks. How about a 92.2 PFF grade under pressure anyway? That's ridiculous stuff considering that rate. 3 touchdowns, 1 big-time throw, plus he ran for 62 yards. That's big time. You look at the contrast of it with Wentz, who was under pressure 53% of the time, 46.6 PFF grade, just 4 for 12 with 5 sacks taken. Herbert only took 2 sacks on the night. I mean, that's the difference. Justin Herbert has just made such a great adjustment over the last month or so to all of these offensive line injuries. And Joe Alt was back in this game, and he played relatively well, but you still have that entire unit that's kind of banged up right now. But Herbert making those adjustments and playing well anyway, just I think really just the toughness and the playmaking ability that he is showing. And as we saw once or twice in this game where, sometimes if you're trying to push those plays and trying to make things happen, things can get a little unstable. We see it more often from some other quarterbacks outside the pocket that we talk about all. Caleb Williams is one we talk about a lot, but Herbert, it's really this new dimension of in the pocket, getting rid of the football quicker to protect himself, and B, here and there, we don't often see Justin Herbert scramble 7 times in a game, but he's been doing it more lately, and he really carried them to another win. He's honestly, the traditional box score stats might not say it, but Justin Herbert should be at least talked about like an MVP candidate for what he's trying to carry this team through.
Yeah, so that sort of brings us into our Explain the Grade segment with Justin Herbert, because I know a lot of people were talking this after Thursday Night Football, and it's specifically, I want to break down sort of the categorization of the certain stats that we have, and people go, well, hold on here, like, we understand, because there are a lot of people who are out there who are like, okay, we understand that the passing grade would be high because there aren't any stats in this category, mainly turnover-worthy plays, but a lot of people have asked, okay, well, why? Because Justin Herbert, he threw an interception in this game, and he had another play that was a dropped interception that ended up being a no play because it was an incomplete pass. But both of those plays, one of them was actually a turnover, and then the other one was sort of like could have been a turnover, and it looked pretty bad when you're watching the game. So this is a really great way for us, or this is a really good, I think, example for us to sort of explain, again, our process and how we get to this point. So specifically, I think that we can easily talk about the interception that he had. So Justin Herbert snaps the football. He's holding on to it a little too long. He veers to his left a little bit. There's pressure in his face. Now, he is late to throw the backside route. And I don't know if technically it was like a backside dig route because McConkey, it's more of like a curl or a comeback is what it looks like McConkey is running. But it's a cardinal sin, if you will, to be late on a backside route like that. And to be honest, if the play would have happened where the ball leaves Justin Herbert's hands and it flies straight to wherever he was pointing it to, maybe that does end up being a turnover-worthy play. But the reason why we don't categorize it as a turnover-worthy play is because it gets tipped at the line of scrimmage. And then at that point, we don't really have the power to judge exactly where that ball was going. I think both of us on this desk would look at that throw and go, that the chances of that throw going well were lower than what you would want it to be.
Sure, but
we can't really fault a quarterback for a result that did not happen in a way in which the ball gets tipped at the line of scrimmage, and we don't know where the ball flight was going.
Because who are we to say Justin Herbert can't make that throw?
And that's the thing, is that Herbert's got an absolute howitzer of an arm. So there is the space. I went back and I watched that play plenty of times. There is the space for him to hit that. It'd be a hell of a throw, but there is a world where he actually gets that ball to where Ladd McConkey was. And not every quarterback has the ability to do that, but that is the reason why that interception doesn't go as a turnover-worthy play. Because when the ball is tipped at the line of scrimmage, we no longer have the ability to sort of judge exactly where it was going or what the end result would have been, or to truly deem that a turnover-worthy decision or not.
Especially from within the pocket. And look, these happen all the time where a pass gets batted at the line of scrimmage, or even in the old, there's certain guys who can catch the ball directly just as it's coming out, just throw both hands up there and catch it. Especially when you're within the pocket, it's you just can't, it's hard to fault a quarterback for something like that. So, I mean, we see it every week. Somebody gets a ball tipped up 10 feet in the air and somebody comes down and catches it, and it's positive grades and all that for the defensive lineman. But those are the moments where you do have to separate. Like, he's got a few unlucky ones. He's got 7 interceptions this year and actually only 5 turnover worthy plays, because he's got a few unlucky deflections and things like that, and even that one is one of them. So certain times it's not always, and that's why you always see that the turnover worthy play number is not the same as the interception number, because there's some you do get lucky on and there's some you get unlucky on too. I mean, I've seen guys who, especially at the college level, who have 2 interceptions on the season and 15 turnover worthy plays. I go, oh, you're playing a bunch of defenders who can't catch. So it can be one way and the other. You can be a little bit lucky too. Right. So, I mean, as far as that goes, like you mentioned with that one, tip balls, generally, we're gonna absolve the quarterback usually, unless it was just some atrocious decision he shouldn't have made. But we're gonna absolve him of that one, just because there is a chance. Who knows if he gets that through? Maybe he threads the needle, maybe not. But
right.
The odds of that got a lot lower once the ball was tipped.
Yeah, I don't want to be clear. Like we mentioned that Justin Herbert has the ability to potentially be late to a backside throw and be able to complete it because he's got the arm talent to do it. That's not to say that we're not giving Justin Herbert specifically a turnover-worthy play on this one. If the ball were tipped at the line of scrimmage, we're almost always, like Dalton said, not putting the quarterback at fault, because we went through a couple of these plays right before this morning, because what we want to be better at is being more transparent between sort of what the data team does and how the grading team comes about these things, and we sort of want to be a microphone for them and be transparent with them, with you guys who are PFF subscribers, and also people who just love the game of football and want to understand it better from our point of view. And the conclusion, and what was reiterated to me from Ben Stockwell, who does a great job leading this team, is he's like, unless something is clearly wrong, we don't want to give a player a fault.
And that concept comes about more with the, because there was people tweeting out about the first one, the Isaiah Rodgers play.
Yes, because that's the one that we really
reviewed and ended up incomplete. The tip ball thing, I think, is a bit simpler, right? The Isaiah Rodgers one, and look, this is the part where, there's gray area and there's really detailed things to break down, because you see, once or twice a game on every team, miscommunications of the quarterback thought, somebody was going one way and the receiver thought he was supposed to go the other way, and then the ball ends up in a funny spot. Now, so often it comes, and it's no harm, no foul, right? And you see the obvious ones where it's like, oh, the quarterback chucked it deep and the receiver ran a 12-yard stop, and you go, the ball just falls on the grass, and you're like, oh, they clearly. There's certain tighter ones like this where Herbert thought Ladd McConkey was running a hitch, and McConkey sold completely that he's running an out. And are there moments where it sure looks like it's one guy's fault or the other? Maybe, but those are kind of rare, especially when you talk about, and these are just things that two guys see defenses a different way, right? And McConkey was clearly 100% sure he was running out, and Herbert, especially with the mirrored concept on the other side, because he had a 2-by-2 formation.
Right.
And they're both on the other side, you had a hitch and a corner.
Right.
But on McConkey's side, you had a corner, and he thought he was running an out. So we go, is it mirrored routes in a 2-by-2, which is often the case, or is Herbert gets absolved of that one despite the bad look, because we are not 100% sure that it's his fault or McConkey's. If we were 100% sure, we might downgrade one of them.
Right.
But since we're not 100% sure, and if it's a 50-50 thing, we basically just kind of wipe the slate and go, okay, we're not going to sit here and read into whose fault that was unless we hear it from somebody. Like there was a play last Friday night's college game where Louisville beat Miami. Carson Beck's last interception, for those who watched, it was a similar thing, and the ball was tipped. But even if it wasn't, similar thing with a tight end who I think Beck thought was going hot to the flat, and the tight end doesn't really know what route he's running, so he starts kind of sort of turning it up, and then the ball gets tipped and picked off. Like, that's a play, for as bad as Carson Beck played the rest of that game, that's a play where we didn't give him a turnover-worthy play either, because the tight end looks like he didn't know the route. Plus, the ball was tipped and got funny in the air, too, in the diving interception. So there's just certain times. The miscommunication, I'll tell you, and I got to be at the end of, when I was on that side, a reviewer on the passing game. those miscommunication ones like that might be the hardest plays in the book for us.
For sure.
I mean, because it's just like, that's a moment where people will go, well, they're not in the playbook. They don't know. And you're right. So we're not going to sit here and go, just make an assumption that it's all Herbert's fault and give him the -2 that some of those balls would get.
Right.
Like that's a ball that if it was just straight up a miss, that would get the bottom of the barrel grade.
Yeah.
And even if he got that here, his passing grade would probably go from a 91 to, I don't know, an 83 or 84, something like that. Is it a huge difference? He still had a great night overall, but it is a fun one to go, there's a lot of gray area. And there's a lot of plays that we have discussions. It was like 4 different people. We were sitting around discussing this exact play going, can we figure out if it's one guy's fault or the other?
Yeah.
And in that case, when it just looks like 50-50, and unless somebody after the game, even in a presser or something said, and it had or Jim Harbaugh had an explanation, which they won the game, they're not going to go back on that right after.
Yeah.
Then it's just, okay, we're gonna leave it alone and go, they got to work on that in practice. It's kind of that thing.
And I think that this is a really good time to bring this up because I think that we'll talk about this plenty as we do a lot more of this, explain the grade things. You know, when I watch people sort of talk about, PFF grades of what they agree with and what they disagree with on social media and things like that, I think that a lot of people have the wrong point of view with the word, the term, the theory, and the execution of being subjective. And I think a lot of people look at being subjective and it not being like 100% like numerically concrete as a bad thing. And I would sit here and tell you that that's what I think is the best part about PFF, is that not only do we have the numerical data that is concrete and is the data, but then we also marry that with, I wouldn't use the word subjectivity, like I would use the word nuance. That's what I think that we do here, and that's what I think that we do really well, because when you evaluate the game of football, you have to be able to have both. You have to be able to have the data points that you have that you can point to that are concrete and they are cornerstones of maybe what an exact play might be or the expected result or whatever that is. But then you have to be able to go back to the film and sort of watch it play out. And you have to have that. Again, a lot of people say like, oh, PFF is subjective, so that makes it bad. Again, I wouldn't necessarily use the word subjective, although I don't think that those people are wrong. I much rather and would rather use the word nuance, because that's what I think that we're really trying to do here. And this specific play, in my opinion, is a great example of that. And there was something that you said there that I hope that people understand as well. There's a lot of misconception about what goes into PFF grading. And you talked about being on the pass game side of things when you were a grade reviewer, and you talked about plays like this specifically being some of the most difficult ones that if they happen in a week, that's what you're focusing a lot of time on. You mentioned right there, though, even as the pass game reviewer, it's not just you. When you have plays like this that are really sort of up in the air and there's a lot of different factors that could be here, and there's a lot of people that get involved. A lot of our highest senior data collectors and graders will kind of come together on these plays, and you guys will have these little meetings like on Monday morning. You'll say, hey, here's this play. What do we all kind of think about that? And that is, there's so much collective football watching experience that is from that it gives you a lot of faith in sort of the conclusions that you're coming to. And like we said last week when we were talking about PFF grades, do we get perfect every single time? No. But that's the process that we go through to really put our best foot forward when it comes to that nuance that is so paramount to really understanding how a play got to the point that it did and how the grade got to the point where it did, the grade distribution, who's at fault, who gets credit, all that kinds of stuff. Because you mentioned on this play specifically, look, they break the huddle. They're in a 3-by-1 concept. They motion McConkey over. Now it's in a mirrored look in a 2-by-2. They're running a smash concept. On a smash concept, you are reading the flat defender. That is what you are reading. Whether it's a cover 2 look, whether it's a cover 3 look, whatever, you're reading the flat defender, because if the flat defender stays up, whether it's the corner or the outside linebacker, then you're going over the top. You're popping it over the top and you're going to the corner route. If not, normally, when I've seen a smash concept before, a lot of times when I've seen smash concepts, it is like that hitch or that curl that's combined with an over-the-top corner route. But sometimes I've seen it where it's a corner out, but it's also a speed out. Like it's an out to the sideline.
That condensed look changes things a bit.
And when you have a receiver that it is as savvy of a route runner as McConkey, sometimes you tell him, hey, you get the option here. We'll give you the option. You can sit if you think that's the best way to do it, or you can have an out. And it's then up to the quarterback and the wide receiver to have that type of communication. And chemistry, I think, is the big part. And on that play, it was much less of a Herbert absolutely made a bad decision, and it felt more like this is a miscommunication. And with that being the case, we don't want to give a turnover-worthy play unless we really feel like it's a turnover-worthy decision. And so again, that is something that I wanted to do here on the show. It's what I want to continue to do moving forward, because I really do love so much about what we do here is we are trying to do the difficult part of marrying data and nuance into how a play comes about, where the credit is, where the blame is, what the result is, and all of that. So that's sort of how we got to that point with Herbert. Anything else here on this?
I don't think it's a whole lot different than like even before when we talked about, people will go, well, man, C.J. Stroud played a lot better this week, and that's true. But finding the why in all of this and just that link between all 22 guys on the field and going, hey, Houston had their best game in pass protection this week, that's a big reason. Is it the only reason? No, Stroud was great. Absolutely. I find it to be the same thing where it's just find the why for why these things happen. It can take, I'm telling you, some of these plays like that, it can take 4, 5, 6 people going, all right, here's what I see here, and we just trying to come to some sort of. So I'll tell you, those miscommunication ones, those are some of the hardest ones.
Yes.
And it can even be sometimes this guy thought to sit in a zone, this guy thought to, keep going through, and quarterback throws to one window and the receiver stopped. I mean, these things happen every week in almost every game. So that's really, those are the fun ones. There's certainly fun ones, but they're also the difficult ones for sure.
I think that we'll probably have 1 or 2 more of those that we get to talk about throughout the season as we do these Explain the Grades. I know you're sweating every time that we think that we've got to break it down because there's so much that goes into them, but I think you did a great job of saying that right there, finding out what the why is. And if you guys out there listening, watching, whatever it is, if you have a desire to always find out what the why is from the game of football, that's what we're always trying to do here at a high level of execution and integrity and all of that. So if you are ever curious of what the why is for how a player performed or how the result is what it is or whatever that is, we got you here at PFF. If you want a PFF Plus subscription, you can see all this stuff for yourself. PFF NFL Show 25. That's the best way to get that PFF Plus subscription. Tune into the show every single week. Hang out with us. Get in on the chat. Have these conversations. Again, just like it is with the data review team. We're sitting here talking about these things, but we love to talk about them together with you guys. So next time that you guys see us will be Wednesday. We will be doing the preview show. Obviously, not as many teams on the bye this week. We down to 2? We down to 4? Actually,
I think it's 4 this week.
We got 4 this week.
We got 14 games.
So we got an extra game. We got 14 games that we are breaking down. You're gonna have a film breakdown later this week.
Not sure on what yet. We're gonna figure it out.
Maybe
the chat's got some ideas. Maybe some people. I gotta figure out what we're doing this week.
Give us some suggestions. You got the college show. You guys are previewing the college show tomorrow. NFL Stock Exchange. We got that coming up right after this. Honestly, at 4:30 p.m. Connor and I are talking about the best and worst early returns for rookies in every round of the draft that we had.
Oh, there's some good ones.
There are some good ones.
There's always good ones.
Excited to get into that conversation. It'll be a lot of fun. Appreciate everybody in the chat getting in on this show. Hopefully you guys can join the college football show, the NFLSE show, all that kinds of good stuff. For Dalton Wasserman, for everybody behind the glass producing this show, I'm Trevor Sikkema saying thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys on Wednesday.